Okay, welcome to episode 2 of the Red Leaf Retrocast. I am your host JD from Moosenspiel, and unfortunately Josh from the illustrious YouTube channel Power Chord, my good buddy who does this with me, he ran into some personal problems. So, instead, managed to get our first special guest, well, since I'm the only one here, I guess it's my special guest, also from YouTube and VidMe, Console Kev, or Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm sorry you all have to deal with me. I apologize in advance, and I hope I don't hurt your feelings too much.
Oh, it's all right. I encourage hurt feelings, especially after I have to call the cops on my neighbors quite a bit lately, it seems. It's not a good time. Your
neighbors sound like jerks. We had a little pre-introduction talk about that, and I feel so bad for you.
Yeah, usually living next to a single housewife wouldn't be the worst thing in the world until she throws karaoke parties at 3:30 in the morning every weekend.
She's a single housewife. Of course she's going to be noisy.
It's just not something you would expect. And my new neighbors that just moved in to the left of me are Muslim, and they're actually afraid to call the cops. Well, I wonder why.
I can't imagine, actually.
It couldn't be anything going on in North America right now.
No, probably not. It's probably fine.
Well, that aside, would you prefer to be called Console Kev or Kevin?
Kevin's just fine, because it's weird when when I was working at a game store, one guy's like, I watch you, you're Console Kev. I'm like, yeah, don't call me that. That's weird. You can't do that.
You know, people have said the same thing to me. People call me Moose or Moosenspiel. I'm like, that's the name of the channel, right?
No, that's your real name. That's your real name. Your real name is Moosenspiel Plays, yes. Actually, if your channel was Moosenspiel Plays and people called you, they'd be like, I'm not a verb, but...
Yes, it's not the German word for play. Come on.
Sure it is.
Yeah, well, it really is. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You are the special guest. You're the one who came up with the theme for the episode.
Oh, I did. That's right. I have responsibility. Oh, no. Well, I don't know. I'm not really good at talking about myself. Really, pretty much my only two hobbies in life are play the video games or snap people's arms in jiu-jitsu. So if I'm not doing one, I'm doing the other. But look, I'm on a little break from work right now, so I've been on a recording rampage. So if anyone cares to check out things as I whore myself out on someone else's show, there's going to be so much stuff coming out, but that's pretty much, it's what I like to do. All I do is really, if I'm not playing video games, I'm at work. If I'm not at work, I'm doing that. I'm a very simple person with simple needs.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Kevin here, he does a lot of solo work. It's more like YouTube channel for those who like to fold their laundry with background noise.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what I'm going for. See, the problem is the only reason it's solo work is because, and I don't know if you've gotten this experience as well, but it's hard to find which of your friends are good at doing this with you. Because I have my buddy that does the Legend of Dragon streams, and I've yelled at him before this. He just lays there and just grumbles. I'm like, dude, you gotta understand, we gotta talk during this thing, right? I can't just be filling this dead air for you. I'm like, yeah, I got it. It's fine. I'm like, I'm gonna slap you, Joey.
Oh man!
I finally think I found somebody.
I've had the same issues myself, where because I do the channel with whoever wants to do it with me, whatever friend. It's like, hey, if we're gonna play video games, why don't we just record it and see what happens?
Yeah.
And it's taken quite some time. It's always never the first try. They're always quiet. Your general video game style. You're not yelling and making lewd comments all the time. You're just kind of sitting there quiet, having a beer, having a good time. But then when you finally get used to things, that's when you basically say whatever pops in your head.
Yeah. I finally found one person that can do it well, and he does it by himself. I learned before I was we should just do it together. So actually, as a spoiler for anybody that decides to check things out, the Borderlands playthrough I'm gonna start putting up soon is my buddy Kelvin, and finally I got somebody who's yes, he understands what to do here.
I'll be looking forward to that. I really liked your Rogue Legacy play, and to be honest, I'm waiting for you to finish Chrono Trigger, and then I will binge watch it with laundry.
I am done playing it. I just have to finish editing and uploading. But I'm done playing it, if that helps.
Yeah, it does. So you're the one who got me introduced into this channel called VidMe. Yes. It's something like YouTube. What is the difference between the two? I'm actually curious to your take on it, since you were way ahead of the curve on this, because it seems a lot of people, whether it's through the Inner Circle here in Toronto from PNG's podcast or just the word of mouth, VidMe's just starting to get their wheels on the ground, so to say, in the last week or two, I've noticed.
Well, it's a YouTube competitor, and I don't know how they started. I don't know if it was like a Kickstarter thing, but I know they're like some very new company. And I started hearing like a couple of people that I watched talk about it. And they were like, oh, this VidMe. I'm like, what the hell is VidMe? So I looked at it. And I'm like, oh, it's just another video sharing site. And I was like most people when I tell them about it, I was like, oh, it's not going to last because like YouTube's a giant. And then I was clicking around on the site. And then I saw their recent tab. And I was like, okay, so like that's actual stuff. Because you go on YouTube's recent tab now, it's like, what did Jimmy Fallon just do? What did, the Colin, whatever his name, show do?
Yeah, it's kind of become what's hot right now in that second.
Right, so
it's become commercialized.
Yeah, the difference between popular, hot videos and recent videos are all like the same people. So I was like, well, that's like not what I don't go to YouTube for that. Like there's a couple big channels I watch. And I'm not one to like be like, oh, big YouTubers, screw them. Like, whatever. you like watch what you want to watch. But like, I can't, it's so hard to find like a new channel unless like, you're in like a million gaming groups. So like, I was looking around on Vidme and I was like, okay, these guys literally have, like, I clicked the top left, like first video they put up. I was like, all right, these dudes literally have one view. And I was like, well, let's just see, what happens if I put my thing up. And you kind of have to, I learned you have to mess with it a little bit. So I put up my video, and like the second it was done uploading, like I was literally the first one on the page. I'm like, holy shit, recent here actually means recent. So you have two options. They're not like trying to pretend YouTube doesn't exist. They're like, hey, if you have a YouTube channel, like link your channel. You can link over your videos, and we'll just put them up here. I was like, oh, that's kind of convenient. So I did a couple of mine. They didn't really get seen. I was like, okay. And this is my experiment. I was like, maybe if I upload directly, like maybe, that, for lack of a better word, like butters their ego a little bit.
Right.
Like, ooh. So I put up like I forget what the first thing I put up, like raw file there. I think it was like Shadow Warrior. And I put it up there and like, I was sitting there. I was like, for me being the size I am, if I got like double digit views on YouTube, I was like, ooh, like, yay. And like, I look on Vimeo, I'm like, whoa, 60. I was like, well,
that's different.
That was different. And I'm like, okay, let's do it again. And like for the things you and I do, that like uploading daily is almost a necessity, which
it pretty much is. It's become just my modern schedule. What I always do because I work full time.
Right, so do I. So.
Whether it's at the beginning of a month or beginning of a week, I just upload for that entire month or week and have it on a timer.
See, that's the one thing I wish VidMe does. They don't have a scheduler yet. Which
yeah, that's what makes it kind of difficult for me to do it daily. But that's besides the point. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that recent tab page. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, because oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I've discovered some smaller channels myself just from that recent tab. It's quite the new feeling. Just like, oh, okay, I've heard of these guys now, as opposed to never.
Well, there's some people I see on there. There's this one channel I watch. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it looks like the word is like Robin Dies. I don't know if that's like his or her name or whatever, because there's two of them. But like on VidMe, they have like a couple hundred views on a video, and I looked at their YouTube channel. They had like 40 subs. I was like the difference there was like ridiculous, and it finally got me to a point where like I was, you're on YouTube, you watch your sub count because you're like, ooh, like what? Maybe one today, And I just got a VidMe. I'm like, oh, who the fuck cares if like you're not watching this stuff,
Right.
So it totally like changed my perspective of like what's really important. Like now I promote like when I upload it to YouTube and VidMe on the same day. But like I'd rather promote the one that I'm like, all right, this one's getting exposure. Like I might as well go with that one because on YouTube you're buried under anybody, Especially like it's almost starting on YouTube nowadays is a waste. I don't want to say a waste because you should follow whatever you want to do, but it's so hard to grow.
Yeah, I was interviewed from this radio channel in Kansas. As random as that sounds, it was just a college student doing a project, and I guess he came across my channel, and he was asking, like, do you plan to make this into a job? And I just kind of laughed at him. I was like, no.
Well, Well,
that's not a
still.
realistic thing. You can shoot for it, go for it, but you're going to definitely go through some hard times.
Yeah.
But maybe VidMe is that new avenue. Who knows?
It might be if they do the monetization, because they don't have a system to do it yet other than like tipping people, which is nice and all, but like, you know,
how many people are actually going to do that?
Right. Like, not everyone has like a dollar to $1 here to give, but $1 here, $1 there. Maybe you got to buy some groceries. If they do some kind of monetization, I think I can see it taking off.
Well, if an American or European wants to donate to Canadian channels,
yeah, I mean,
just remember your dollar goes a long way.
I'm not against it. I'm like, I'm not planning to make this a living. I'm just doing it because it's almost therapeutic. Like, if I get to like talk to myself as I'm playing a game, I'm like, yeah, maybe someone listens to my crazy shit I say.
Yeah, it's fun, and that's what matters in the end.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fun, Nintendo had another Direct a week after their Switch Direct.
Yeah.
And it was about Fire Emblem in particular. And they covered some new Fire Emblem games. A couple were kind of expected, but we got a couple surprises as well. And what I found weird was the fact that it was Fire Emblem in the first place, instead of something like more information on, I don't know, Mario Adventure Galaxy.
I don't know what that game's going to be, but...
well, it looks gorgeous, but we're not going to get into what we think of the Mario game in Christmas time. This is about Fire Emblem.
True.
Have you played any Fire Emblem games yourself, Kevin?
So I fanboyed in around Awakening when everyone else kind of did in America, and I fell in love with the series. So somehow I ended up buying every single Fire Emblem game, including like Super Famicom reproductions of like English. So I bought them all, and then the thing is like, they're just, the games are so long, and I was like, all right, I'm never going to be able to do all this. So like,
they're generally at least 50-hour games.
Right, and that's the thing. And then I got into the Fate series. So I did, I did Awakening, then I did Shadow Dragon, and I did a bunch. But then I got into the Fate series, and I liked those games, but I didn't like the way they set them up, where it was like 3 games, and then the thing is, those games, like you said, are like 50 hours each, and there's 3 of them. And they're stupid hard, so by the end of it, I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm burnt out on Fire Emblem." Like, and it just seems like Nintendo understands it's popular now, so they're really like milking it. Like, once like Awakening came out, they're like, "All right, Fire Emblem everywhere." Like every time Smash Brothers got announced, they're like, "Another Fire Emblem character." I'm like, "Yeah."
Well, there's so many of them. It would just wouldn't make sense to take advantage of it. To not take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. It's just like, I'm almost at the point where like, they're doing too much too soon, kind of thing.
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't expecting a new Fire Emblem game for another year or two.
One Fire Emblem game.
Yeah, I know, as opposed to the 4 that they're coming out with. Because, like you said, the Fate series came out with 3 games. You could be on the good side, the bad side, and then there was a conglomeration of the 2 games to kind of finish out the story, which I still haven't experienced yet. I believe that's called, Revelations?
Yeah, Revelations. It was
not a very original title, but...
No, it wasn't so much good or bad. It was just like 2 sides of the same story, but one side was clearly a bunch of bigger dicks than the other. That makes sense.
No, it really does. Well, the first game we saw teased to us at the Nintendo Switch Direct, and that's the Fire Emblem Warrior game, which is essentially Dynasty Warriors with Fire Emblem characters, which we saw the previous couple years ago with Hyrule Warriors with all the Zelda characters,
which was dope.
Yeah, a lot of people liked it. I was in Dynasty Warriors when the PS2 came out, so I've kind of been over the series for quite some time, but I do know for a fact that the game is quite popular, especially in Japan.
Very popular.
And the East. So, do you think you'll be getting Fire Emblem Warrior? Well, first of all, are you getting a Switch?
I'm not getting a Switch until that thing proves itself to me. I already got suckered with the Wii U.
Well, I like the Wii U, but...
I like the thing, but, I was like, there's all these games coming out. I was like, oh, there's not that many. But Nintendo's first party is going to be good. Oh, wow, they didn't do that. Oh, okay. Never mind. So I'm going to wait on this one. I mean, I like the Warriors series.
That's fair. You don't want to be burned, kind of like what happened with the Sega Saturn way back in the day. I know I had some friends that were burned on that and the Dreamcast.
I just can't jump the gun on anything anymore because I'm just even like a PS4 I wasn't sold on right away.
No, I wasn't either. The PS4, a lot of modern consoles seem to be having this issue where it takes a couple of years for the library to be built and for companies to finally understand how to make something for the hardware.
Yeah, it definitely takes some time nowadays.
But that's, of course, just you and my opinion.
Yeah, true.
Now, what makes the Switch different for me is the fact that I am getting one. Zelda's coming out. Bomberman's coming out. I'm pumped for those. And the fact that they're spreading out their game titles to make it where there's at least one new title every few months, it seems. To me, that's good. That's a good business decision, as opposed to just releasing them all at once. Because how many people have hundreds of dollars to spend just immediately?
Nintendo fans.
Well...
But the thing is, like, that's the thing. The Wii U promised, like, Pikmin and Mario and Wonderful 101 and Lego City, all these things right away. And then, like, delays happen, which they always do. So it's not like...
Well, Nintendo's good about, hey, this game's going to be delayed. We want them right. We don't want 1,000 patches in the first week.
Totally fine. And I understand that. But then things like Rayman, what was it, Origins or Legends? I can't remember. Whichever one they were... Oh, Legends. What's supposed to be, like, an exclusive. They were like... We're going to wait this one out. Like, oh, we have to delay it for reasons. They're like, guys, the Switch isn't selling. We got to back out. Or the Wii U. Never mind. Joke failed. But
oh, boy.
I want to wait and make sure things are going the way. And, like, there's more than one game I want to play on it is my issue.
Well, that's all fair. That's all fair.
Yeah.
So will you be interested in the Fire Emblem Warrior?
I mean... Here's the thing. As much as I love the Warrior series, like I love Dynasty Warriors, I know they're the same game over and over. But it's not a system seller because the other argument being is like, well, if you played one Warrior game, you played them all. Yep. Which is true to a point. So like, I want to play it, but will I lose sleep if I don't get a Switch and don't play it? No.
Yeah, that's what kind of separates that game from, say, a new Zelda game. Sure, all the Zelda games are the same at heart, but... It's not the same monotonous button pressing, but I do know for a fact a lot of people are going to get this game for sure. Absolutely. Much like Hyrule Warriors.
Well, the thing is, it's a Nintendo first-party game, so people are going to pick it up no matter what. Even if they have no intention of playing, they're just like, it's going to be rare. So I'm like, yeah, fucking okay.
Yeah, that's a fact. Nintendo games do not depreciate, which that'll actually go into our general topic later.
Yeah.
We'll dive deeper into that kind of thing. The next game they announced at this Direct was an untitled Fire Emblem game for the Nintendo Switch in 2018. Now, I was not expecting this, but extremely excited because nothing screams to me fanboy more than a first-party Fire Emblem game on a console that you can take with you on the go.
It's exciting. I'm not going to lie. I need to know more about it. I mean, all Fire Emblem games, I don't think I've played a bad one yet, so...
No. Well, you said you have them all. Does that mean you have the GameCube Path of Radiance?
So, here's... Alright, so fun story about that. I had them all. I got Path of Radiance for a stupid deal of like $30.
Oh my god.
And the thing is, like, as you get older, the more you look at some things, like, is the money this is worth more to me than like me playing it again? And I played it, I beat it, I was like, all right, I had my fun with this, but this game's worth a lot of money, and like there's other things I want to play. So I was like, well, I don't, instead of spending real money, I was like, I had my time with this. It's not, it's got to, and it's a long game, so like to sit and play it again, I'm like, if I want to do it one day, I'll do it one day. So I got rid of Path of Radiance, actually.
Oh my god, I wish we would have been friends earlier. I'd be like, I will pay monies for that.
I know, but like, see, the thing
so
is...
So much of the coin values.
See, and this is like just how my mind works, is that because I got it for like $30, like, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to give it to you for $30. Like, that's the thing. And I know now it's making it worse for you. But like,
you're
I was
too
just like,
kind to other humans.
Well, because the thing is, like, we'll get into a general topic later too, but it's just like, these prices are getting crazy. Like, I don't think any game in the world is worth more than $60. I don't care how good it is.
Well, You need to move to a foreign country of some kind where games are not $60.
Whatever the release date or release price was.
We'll go into that with the general topic more. Yeah. So yeah, new Fire Emblem game for the Nintendo Switch. The only thing I'm worried about is the direction they went with Fates, with breaking the game up.
Yeah, I don't want that. I
hope that's a one and done deal, honestly.
So here's the thing I noticed actually before we got on, I hate to go back to Heroes on you, but I didn't realize it was 3DS. I thought that was a Switch game. Well, we hadn't gone into Hero. We didn't go into or Warriors. Which one is it?
Yeah, Warrior is the Dynasty Warriors game.
Yeah. I didn't know that was 3DS. That scares me.
It's 3DS and Switch.
Okay, good. Well, I would get the Switch version then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. The Hyrule Warriors doesn't really work on the 3DS.
No, the game requires too much power and something the 3DS just isn't capable of.
Yeah, that's what scared me about that.
Just a quick question. I've had this growing feeling, I base it off absolutely nothing, but the growing feeling that the Nintendo Switch will at some point have an adapter of some kind for you to be able to play DS and 3DS games.
I would love to think that, but I also thought that with the Wii U. I can't understand how somebody was like, the Wii U's not selling, what do we do? And somebody had to be holding a tablet, holding it and looking at the TV and just going up and down like a cartoon, and then looking at a 3DS and go, how is this thing not a giant 3DS? If you could play Pokemon X and Y, or whatever Pokemon you want to do, on your Wii U, that thing would have sold. And I would think that,
it's funny you bring that up. The Pokemon Stars is confirmed for the Switch, I believe, later in 2017.
I'm sure it'll sell, but
that will sell a buttload.
It will, but in my mind, I'm like, to me at least, I'm like, it seems a little too late, kind of thing.
I don't know.
I feel like
that's the whole reason why I didn't get the Pokemon Sun and Moon. I was like, this is definitely going to come out on the Switch.
I feel like they have to do that by exactly a year after Sun and Moon came out. It has to be that soon before people forget about it.
Well, it would be a year to the date, almost.
That's true. Yeah, they got to do it within that year window. But
otherwise, the fan base will be lost by that time, you think?
Yeah. Well, the other thing, so you didn't play Sun and Moon, did you?
No, I've been waiting off.
This is me, but I don't know. Some of my friends kind of agree. Sun and Moon's really different than other Pokemon games.
That's kind of the point, though.
It is the point, but some things that throw me off is just I don't care about the trials thing. That's all right, you had to switch it up from the gyms. It's the typing is weird, randomly Vulpix is ice, and I was just like, what? And
you will not shit on Ice Sandshrew if you
no, that thing looks awesome. That thing's fine. It's just that I'm playing, I'm like, oh, okay, I know that Meowth is normal type, and then it's just wrong, bitch, I'm ice. I'm like, it's just a weird adjustment. So it's
doesn't Vulpix mean fire?
Yes, that's
in some sort of Japanese. Yeah, when you break the name down, it's kind of odd, but
that's the thing. And then it depends on how fans will take to the new Pokemon, because there's still people that haven't played it. And it's just and then when it comes out for Switch, if they did X and Y and then maybe Z on Switch, I feel that would go a little better.
Try and go a little bit backwards first to go forwards.
Yeah, keep it traditional and then be yo, new fans, I bet you missed out on this. Bam.
Well, the reason why I bring up my feeling of the 3DS and DS games possibly being on the Switch, I don't see it in the next year or two, but maybe in that third or fourth year when the consoles come into an end, because a lot of people seem to think the Wii U just came out. And I'm like, no, it's been about 5 years, which is Nintendo's usual time frame for a new console.
I mean, there's people that still think the Wii U is a giant tablet controller for the Wii, so there's that.
Well, it's fair. I've always looked at the Wii U as just kind of an upgrade, much like what the PS4 Pro is.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is that the Wii was developed to be just an attachment for the GameCube, and then they took that up. Yeah, and then then the thing is the Wii U is going to be from what I heard was it was the idea to be just a little upgrade for the Wii. So it's Nintendo keeps doing these add-ons and they're just no, wait a minute, guys, hold on. One guy just keeps
a certain company that also did something like that in the 90s.
Yeah, they're this has never gone wrong ever. So,
well, it's that SD port, and the fact that they've gone back to cartridges. That's just where this feeling comes from.
That is really cool about that, though.
And I believe the Switch screen has touch enabled. I just see it as an easy possibility somewhere down the line.
See, the thing that scares me about that touchscreen is how am I going to use that in the dock?
Too bad. That's how.
So what games are going to use it? That's why I'm like the touchscreen's cool, but I'm like, how am I going to use it if I'm playing it at home?
Well, that's that whole, hey, this is possibly portable deal, you know?
This is true.
Well, speaking of the portable, another Fire Emblem game is coming out for the 3DS. It's Fire Emblem Echoes, which is one of those Eastern games that never came to the West way back in the day, in the 90s. And they've kind of upgraded it and modified it to more or less the Awakening's gameplay with some harder elements of the past.
Yeah, I'm
pretty excited for this game.
Fire Emblem Gaiden I'd played a little bit of, and I'm kind of interested to see how that remake goes, because like before Fire Emblem got big, like story and like character development wasn't really big. It was just kind of like, here's your units, good luck. Like, so I'm kind of interested to see like how the story really fleshes out in this one.
It looks really interesting. It looks like the difficulty's back. I like my Fire Emblem games to make me cry in my sleep.
You have not played Conquest, have you?
I've played Conquest.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
It made me cry in my sleep. That's exactly what I want in my Fire Emblem games.
See, I did Birthright first. I was like, oh, this is nice. And I was like, what have I done?
Yeah, Birthright's a cakewalk.
Yeah, it really was.
So yeah, Echoes. It's kind of an homage to what the past Fire Emblem games. You said have you played the Super Nintendo one?
I've played Thryka 776. I don't know how you pronounce that. Thryka, and then was Sword of Seal Super Nintendo. No, that was GBA.
Okay, I have Mystery of the Emblem, which
that was the one.
It's a fan made translation. It's the only way we could get it, and that game is balls hard once you get past like level 4. And that's for those who don't know, Fire Emblem before Awakening came out, there was no option to really turn off the permadeath.
That's how it should be played, though. I stand by. That's how Fire Emblem should be played.
I mean, you can easily just restart the map. That is an option.
Right, but the thing is, you have to live with the punishment. Like, okay, now I fucked up. Or
do I want to try this map again? That's kind of where it gives you, the player, that nagging feeling. It's like, ooh, can I beat this without anyone dying? Is that Harriet, possible?
You didn't pull your weight, Harriet. You're gonna die. I'm sorry. We don't need you.
Should have been faster.
And actually,
maybe if you were able to move 4 squares instead of 3.
Yeah, get your shit together, Harriet. The only thing I don't like in the new games is that I took away weapon durability, because that was like a big strategy thing in Awakening and like all the other ones. I'm like, all right, I have like 15 hits on this iron sword. Is it worth doing the extra damage, or should I like save the durability, only kill him with a bronze? Like that kind of threw a lot into the game. Now I'm just like click, 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 click.
Yeah, that difficulty has gone the ways of the past, but that's really where modern gaming is going away.
I'm not against getting rid of it, but let me have the option, you know?
Yeah. With modern gaming, I mean, a friend and I were recording. We played Psycho Fox with the Master System, followed by Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Yeah. And when we were playing Rise of the Tomb Raider, we had no qualms about death. We're just like, I wonder what happens if we go in this cave with no ammo. I bet there's wolves inside. Oh, well.
Well, that's the thing. And like old games, it makes sense because back then they didn't want you to rent a game for a week and beat it and then never buy it. So I got it. And also we didn't have like money to throw around as kids. So we were just like, all right, well, you know, I'm going to get good at this. You know, now games are just shit out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was definitely something Sega was good at doing. It's like, no, this is going to be just hard enough where people can't beat it in a weekend.
Right. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of beating in a weekend.
Heyo.
The last game the Fire Emblem Direct went over was something that was expected. And that was the mobile game Fire Emblem Heroes.
Burn it.
You're not a fan.
Well, here's the thing. It's RTS. I don't want Fire Emblem to be real-time strategy.
Is it? I thought it was turn-based still.
No. Original story, I'm making sure I got it right. It's real-time strategy, which is like, what the fuck? Why is Fire Emblem real-time strategy? Mobile games are normally like, I mean, I'm hoping Nintendo won't do this, but I saw Mario Run. Like, I don't want to just pay to play it. And, like, I need tactile feedback. I hate playing on a touchscreen. Like, something about mobile games just have no appeal to me. Like,
it's the virtual controls that don't do it for me. But
yeah.
With something like Fire Emblem, before you said RTS, I was sold. Now I'm not too...
No.
Now I'm not too excited about it.
I can't be managing things on a touchscreen if I misclick or something goes wrong. Like, I don't want that.
It kind of encourages the mobile pen.
Yeah, I'm not about that. I don't like mobile games because they're just not functional on a phone. Like, I need my phone in case, like, for all other things other than bullshitting and sending bad memes to my friends. Is like, what if I get in like stranded? I'm like, oh, I need my phone. Like, good thing I have a phone to call somebody. But if I'm playing games and battery's dead, well, shit, you know.
Yeah, if you play games on your phone, you should be well aware that the game isn't going to last more than an hour or two. And
Fire Emblem's not a series that you play a map and be like, well, I'm done today. Like, it's an in-depth thing. Like, you're sitting on that map for like maybe 45 minutes. Like, all right, how do I do this? Like,
yeah, you're afraid to move. And those maps looked incredibly small. So I'm wondering how that's going to make for intriguing gameplay. What did intrigue me is I've been playing World of Final Fantasy like nobody's business lately because of my job and I travel. Yeah. Fire Emblem Heroes seemed like it was kind of going that route with mixing in characters from all these different stories and making a coherent title. So that has me hopeful at the very least. And they've had this online vote for your character to be in the first release of the game, and I guarantee you're going to have to pay for more characters at some point along the line, or earn them in the game, which would be significantly slower.
Like, there was a small period, I remember it was around, I don't know the year, but I remember I had an iPhone 4, and, like, mobile games were actually kind of decent. Like, there were actually games I was, like, interested in playing. I'm like, oh, this is, like, in-depth, excellent thing. And then, like, somehow they were just like, it's free to download, pay us to start the game. I'm like, all right, well, we just took a real bad turn now. How do we get here? Like, there was, like, a solid 2 years where, like, mobile games are good, and if Fire Emblem maybe came out in that time, I'd be like, all right, this is, like, a real full-on game. Because there's something called Great Little War Game that I play once in a while, and it's a turn-based strategy game. It's, like, very like Advance Wars, which, you know, same guys make Fire Emblem. Like, if it was like that, I'd be totally pumped about this, but I don't know. I'm not interested in this mobile game anymore, especially RTS. I'm terrible at those.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of RTS games. That makes me think too much on the fly, and I don't know about you, but when I'm playing video games, my brain turns off.
Depends if I'm recording.
I have to do too much maths and the science for work, and I don't want to do that after hours. Like I said, my rule is once 5 o'clock hits, the whole calculator idea just doesn't work.
Nope, that's why I'm actually
what's
playing
5
Doom
plus
right
3? I don't know anymore. It's after 5.
That's how I am. I'm playing Doom right now. I'm just like, whatever, shoot, bang, bang, kill. I'm like, well, I don't need this right now.
Well, I'm going back to what the Fire Emblem Direct is. I'm glad they did it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about Fire Emblem Echoes, because I thought I was done buying 3DS games, period.
I kind of am still.
And Fire Emblem Echoes just adds one more game onto that list. It still sparks some life into the 3DS. And, it makes me happy.
You know what the problem is?
What's that?
You gotta buy a day one and you're never getting it. That's how it is with Fire Emblem.
Well, if I want to pre-order it or something, but...
Who pre-orders games?
It's a Nintendo game. It's okay to pre-order a Nintendo game.
Nah. I'm good. I'll find it at a Goodwill, maybe.
No, Echoes will be in stock about 3 months after release date, so...
Yeah, after they were like, we sold how many copies? We sent like 4 to a store. That's enough for the whole country.
That's what ended up happening with Fates. I just waited 3, 6, 9 months after release, and I was finally able to get it, but...
Yeah.
But Nintendo, I'm pretty optimistic for what Nintendo's doing over the next year or so. It's not... A lot of people still have their reservations. I still have my reservations, but I'm remaining optimistic. I like Nintendo. I'm still a fan. I'm still gonna purchase their things, but how much is up to them.
Yeah. Well, you can finally get an NES Classic. Remember that thing?
I don't need one. I still have my original NES from Christmas in 1992.
See, not to get off topic, but the one thing that pissed me off about that classic is that the only people I see complaining about like the stock numbers are people that also follow it up with, I mean, I don't need one. I have my old Nintendo. I'm like, then don't complain about the stock if you have no interest. Like, calm down. And then they're like, well, of course I'm going to buy one, though. I'm like, I don't understand what you want. Like, I've never seen a normal person be like, well, I can't find one, you know?
Yeah, I've never even tried to search for one. I have no desire to have one.
Nah, I'm good.
The only reason why I might get one is to give it to my little brother for Christmas like 3 years from now.
And then when he can finally like comprehend, like, yes, this is good games.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that covers the intro and Fire Emblem Direct. Why don't we take a short little break? I'm going to refill my tea here, and we can get into our main topic and our main theme.
Yes, massive.
Welcome back to the Red Leaf Retrocast, and we are on to our main topic, our theme, in which it was chosen by special guest Kevin from Console Kev.
What up, fam?
What is this amazing theme that you have chosen that is close to your heart?
Speaking of being close to people's hearts, there's nothing nicer than sitting on the couch with a beloved friend, or a friend you want to stab in the face sometimes, like sitting and playing a game together. And I'm like a big component of couch co-op. If you want me to buy your game, there's two things you got to do. One, couch co-op, or at least some kind of split screen. Two, cell shaded graphics. Those make me happy too, but I don't get those a lot.
I love the cell shaded.
Your game could be crap, but if you have cell shaded graphics, I will go, I'll give you a shot.
I'll give you a solid few hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least it'll look pretty. You know, Tales of Zestiria is kind of like that. Ooh,
I have that, and I need to play it.
It's kind of cel-shaded. The story doesn't mean anything to me, but I could have a couple beers and play you.
I have it, and my buddy's going to play with me, and then he got his own copy and beat it in like a week. I'm like, all right, forget me then.
Well, it's a Tales game, so enjoy dialogue.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, you chose the topic of couch co-op, which is definitely pretty much a relic of retro games. It's a relic of the past. Everything's gone the way of the online multiplayer and the Call of Duties, your Battlefield. Everything's just a first-person shooter. And even while researching the topic and researching games, I was like, man, you know what? Now that you mention it, even games back then, because of the punishing difficulty levels that the games needed to be at, like I said, I played Psycho Fox with a friend of mine the other day. Let's take, for example, 3 deaths and then it was game over, start over, and you would just trade off with your buddy. That was essentially kind of a couch co-op. But we're going more along the lines of, it's a game with a story in which you and a friend can play together at the same time.
Which is the best way to play.
And while we were choosing these games, we actually pretty much avoided beat-em-ups, such as your Final Fight and your Streets of Rage. So it made picking the games a bit different.
I mean, you got one on here that's kind of a beat-em-up.
Kinda, but we'll get into that one later on, how it's actually changed. Genres have gotten into more subcategories as the years have gone on. But let's dive into our first game. It was your pick, Kevin, and it's called Goof Troop on the Super Nintendo.
Absolutely.
And it was developed and published by Capcom. It was released in 1993 on the Super Nintendo.
Those things are enough to let you know it's going to be at least a decent game.
It's an action-adventure game with plenty of puzzle elements and, of course, co-op multiplayer.
The best way.
Who's banging in your area, by the way?
Well, that could be a multi-part question. but my neighbors are doing some construction, so I apologize.
Oh, is that what the kids are calling it these days? Doing construction?
I call it filing my taxes, but you can do whatever you want to do.
Well, back to Goof Troop. As you can imagine, it's Goofy and Max. If anyone remembers Goofy back in the day, you don't really see a lot of that character anymore.
I don't remember his son's name, but thank you for reminding me.
Oh, you don't remember the crazy movie where Goofy and Max go camping and everything, and Max is all pumped up about Rockstar and all that? No,
I vaguely do, but like all I remember, I was like, Goofy's kid. That's all I call him. I forgot his name.
I just remember that movie because Pete, Goofy's neighbor and quote unquote enemy, had an RV with a 1-lane bowling lane on the top of it.
Yeah, that was dumb.
No, that is the best thing ever. I want.
I do not want that. It's a terrible place for a bowling alley.
I'm a big time bowler, so I would just salivate at the opportunity. Come on, it came up through the top of his roof of the RV.
That is not practical, JD.
It is the future.
Yeah, the future, 1993, because we already have those now, so,
Yeah, so the plot of the story is Goofy and Max are fishing, and they see a pirate ship off in the distance taking Pete and his son PJ as their captives. And so I guess this just means Goofy and Max go through an adventure to try and save them.
You think Max would have the IQ to be like, Goofy, he's an asshole to you. Stop. He doesn't like you.
I think they made jokes throughout that during the game, during their still frame cutscenes.
Fully animated, what you talking about?
Oh, they weren't they?
Super Nintendo, bro. I mean, stop motion, fully animated.
Kinda, yeah. It was more of the stop motion.
Yeah.
But you go through 5 areas on Spoonerville Island.
Best naming ever in old games, I gotta say.
The innuendos. They were aplenty. You got your 5 areas. You got your beach level, your village, your haunted castle, your cavern, and your pirate ship, which is the final level. And the pirate ship is arguably the hardest, but the game's not that hard.
The game's not that hard, but it has for a modern equivalent or semi-modern, like the Triforce Heroes and like Legend of Zelda 4 Swords. It's a game you can play by yourself, but if you do, you are going to probably get really mad at it because you have to work together.
I tried playing this alone. No matter what, there's going to be 2 characters on the screen, Goofy and Max. They have to be there, whether you play by yourself or not. And one of the characters is going to be the AI, and the AI is stupid. Oh, so bad. Stupid. It's impossible.
You can switch back and forth, though. I think. No.
Okay. Why?
I don't know why you'd want to, but you could.
I actually, before I had a friend come over and play this game with me, it was more fun if I was playing this when I was playing this by myself. It was more fun to just pick 2-player.
Yep.
And then just to have Max die a lot.
Oh, see, I tried to do the dual hand method where I had like the D-pad on each hand. And I was like, all right, let's do this. I felt like a total computer like wizard, like you'd see in the 90s movies, like clicking away at things.
No, I would purposely have Max always at the bottom of the screen.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like how you do X-Men on NES.
That might be a game to play someday.
This game is one of those games where you can't just sell a 2-player only game because this isn't Atari anymore. So like you have to play this with the second player though. Like it's almost unbearable to do it alone.
And including that, like I said, I found the game incredibly easy once it got a handle on the controls. Once I found out you could catch items thrown at you by just keeping your hands in the air.
You can what? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been playing this game wrong.
Yeah, once I found that out, the game became incredibly easy.
Oh, man.
Especially for some boss battles. Anything thrown at you can just catch in the air.
I didn't know that was a thing you could do. Now I feel stupid.
Yep. Bombs, barrels, you can just catch it and throw it right back. Because if you've noticed, I believe it was on the Haunted Castle, that's when enemies started doing the same thing to you.
Yeah, but see, like, enemies in games always have an unfair advantage. Like, they can go through walls or shoot through them, but it's like, nah, I can't, though. So I just assumed, like, it was, like, a thing the enemies can do. So I didn't even, like, think to do that.
Ah, but remember, this is more or less a Disney game.
This is true.
Yeah, I was actually surprised it was developed and published by Capcom. I was
they did all those good Disney games on like NES, Super Nintendo era.
I was like, really? Why did Capcom? Well, okay, I'll go with it. Why not?
I mean, they did Chip 'n Dale, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck. I mean, they did some good stuff.
They did those games as well?
Great Circus Mystery, I think, was them too.
I didn't know it was Capcom. See, look at me learning the things.
Dude, Capcom in like Disney games from like NES to Super Nintendo, like all at least like B pluses.
Man, and I have Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers.
What are you waiting for? Stop the podcast, go play it right now.
I do like that game. Well, the goal of each level is to solve these various puzzles, whether it's like pushing a block over a button to open a door or killing all the enemies on the screen, and then you'll eventually get to the end and face a boss. Which I think the boss battle was kind of important for the game to keep that pace going and motivate you to complete the level. It gave you a sense of progression.
I like the boss battles. They could have done them worse. Because, I mean, a lot of platformers are just kind of like, here's the same boss over and over, but I don't know. This one seemed everything was right, and you actually had to like work together as a co-op team and actually make it work.
The working together part, what was good about it was the fact that your characters can only hold one key item, such as a grappling hook, a bell, a candle, a board, or a key. So you found yourself going, okay, do I want the grappling hook or do I want the board? And more or less, it's just always have a grappling hook in your hand.
No, grappling hook is like, I gotta have this to win. Like, you can't not play the grappling. It's the same thing in like Zelda. Like, it's the best weapon. It gets you wherever we need to go. So this is where Nintendo copied them.
I love the fact that if you were Goofy in particular, you can kill the enemies in one hit, throwing things. But if you also had the grappling hook, you can just keep an enemy busy, just pounding them with the grappling hook over and over again.
That's actually how me and my buddy got through one level. We couldn't get this one enemy out of the way, so he would just tell me to sit there with the grappling hook and just keep shooting at him. So, like, no enemies were in his way. He's like, all right, I did the whole puzzle myself. I'm glad I helped. Thank you. I feel just as important now.
Well, there's actually more incentive to be a certain character. Goofy is slow, but like I said, he can kill an enemy in one hit. Meanwhile, Max is super fast and he can weave in and out, but he takes 2 hits to kill an enemy.
Kind of a very similar parallel to a lot of 90s platforms, especially like Donkey Kong. Like, you know, you have DK who's like big, strong, and he can kill things easier, but Diddy was like faster and like do all that. So that's kind of like a thing you see in a lot of like 90s platformers, and like especially co-op games, like one person has some advantages over the other. Like always, like Mario 2's not a co-op.
It's not unheard of.
No, I like when I'd rather do that than be the same character. You know.
I found it hilarious when I first threw a barrel and the enemy just proceeds to just literally fly off the screen.
90s, bro. It's kind of the only way you can explain it is just 90s.
Well, I mean that speaks volumes to how the game kind of progressed. It was nice because they could have easily just programmed it where you hit an enemy and he just flashes and disappears. Like
GoldenEye, where they fade into the ground.
Yeah,
that's the best one.
I find that being kind of lazy, no death animation, and this game had it.
Programming limit than like just being lazy. They were just like, we can't put all these dead bodies on screen, guys.
I don't know. You can't have the polygons explode.
Nah, man. Actually, that would probably be better. I would like that.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, and this game had a lot of funny animations, whether it was the enemies flying off the screen, the faces that Goofy and Max would make when they get hit, and oh man, I tell you, every time I saw one of these red or blue diamonds, I was very happy, because unless you get the fruit scattered throughout the level, it's a one-hit kill for your character as well.
Yeah, no, you have to. That's the thing. It was a very, while there was like kind of, I guess you can call that combat, I like that the game kind of relied on its puzzle elements. It knew what it was good at, and it didn't just try to make you fight things because there were enemies. You could totally avoid enemies if you want.
Yeah, unless the room forced you to kill them all to open a door, you didn't have to kill a single one. You could have just ran around and avoided them. But why would you do that?
I ended up like, I liked doing that better after a while. I was just like, I'd rather do this than like sit here and fight an enemy just because it's on the screen, Like, to outsmart them.
Yeah, kind of. But the fact that you said that after a while you found it better to just run around them, I sort of kind of did it the same way, because the game did get a bit repetitive after a couple levels.
It does, but that's when your friend comes in and you start bullshitting and talking and like.
Well, that's the silver lining that kind of saves this game, despite how easy I found it, and despite the fact that the puzzles were pretty repetitive. The fact that you played this game with a friend makes this game worth it. It's a fun experience, but you have to play it with somebody.
It's still like fairly cheap now, so before
it's I looked it up. It's running about $20.
Oh, never mind. It got more expensive than when I bought it.
Well, for Super Nintendo, that's not too expensive.
Too expensive for my blood. I don't know. Can I say the E word on here, or is that like frowned upon in this podcast?
No, expensive is fine.
No, that's not the E word I was going to say.
Ecstasy?
I was going to say just emulate it, man.
Oh, well.
I'm that guy. I don't know.
I mean, people do that. My opinion over emulation is neither here nor there.
I'm all for people playing things the cheapest way they can. And look, man, if you like it enough, go buy yourself a copy. I
think if the game sells for $300, then it's just asking to be emulated. But anyways,
if the game sells for $300, you guys are on drugs.
Well, that goes into more of our general topic later. But
yeah, we keep slipping in there.
Yeah, we're giving hints. Yeah. Well, a fun fact I found out about this game, and I think this will pretty much do it for Goof Troop, is the creator, Shinji Mikami.
That name sounds familiar.
Oh, does it? He's the guy who made Resident Evil.
Oh, that's right.
He made this game.
I remember seeing a thing about because the more videos I watch on like old games, they're like, he worked on this game, and then like as you watch a video, you can see like where his ideas for the things he's known for comes from, and like a lot of these Goof Troop puzzles like kind of remind me of Resident Evil. Now that you say that,
and that's exactly where I was going in there, especially the puzzles in the castle stage.
Yeah, especially because it's a castle.
A lot of that first mansion in Resident Evil is sort of kind of loosely based off this castle stage in Goof Troop.
So there's a hidden room in Resident Evil 1 where you can be the Goofy sprite. And the dog that jumps through the window goes, "Gosh."
Oh god, that would be really funny. Could you imagine that have been an urban legend back then, like in Tomb Raider? Oh, if you do this at a certain point in the game, Lara Croft takes her clothes off, or if you beat the game fast enough.
Sweet triangle titties, all right.
That'd be such a fun urban legend. Oh my god, if you play this game, play Resident Evil fast enough, the dogs will start going garsh, garsh, garsh.
That would be Shinji Mikami. Let me tell you something. You need to stop this whole Resident Evil 6 and 7 nonsense. You need to go back and remake the first one. Do this.
You know what? I'm pretty sure those dogs were saying garsh the whole time.
I don't know. I was too busy running and shitting my pants. I don't even know what they were saying. I was like, why the fuck is he chasing me?
Oh man, so that was Goof Troop. I had fun with it with a friend, but not by myself.
Yeah, no, it's not a solo game.
Absolutely not.
But I enjoy it.
Yeah. Our next game is another game chosen by you. And when you first brought this up, I was like, what the hell is this?
It's a cool ass game, man.
Oh man, it's called Battle Tanks Global Assault, which is it's a sequel to the first game that was highly praised, actually.
Yeah.
And it came out on both the PlayStation and Nintendo 64. It was developed and published by, get this, the 3DO company.
Hell yeah, the best system. No, I'm just kidding. I can't even say that.
It's a system that tried to compete, and boy, did it ever try.
Hey, they definitely, you know what I came and say? They definitely made a system, but they didn't. That's right. They only made the games. They never made the system.
Yeah, I mean that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, that's weird. I was gonna make
it's a real shame that the 3DO had its potential. I knew one kid growing up that got a 3DO. Why? Instead of a major console, and he was pumped. He wanted Street Fighter. He wanted Battle Tanks Global Assault. I actually emailed him. I was like, "Did you have this growing up?" And he's like, "Oh hell yeah."
Yeah, game's dope. That's why he's a smart kid.
Yeah. So he loved it. He still loves his 3DO. He still has it to this day.
Really?
So yeah,
works.
Yep, it still works. Surprisingly enough. Yeah, you can find a couple out there. He's taking good care of it.
Yeah.
So Battle Tanks Global Assault was released in 1999 on the N64 and 2000 on the PlayStation. It was actually a port a year later. So one of those timely exclusives that word gets thrown around these days.
Yeah, too often.
It's a co-op action game with a boatload of multiplayer elements. So many different
love this game.
So many different game modes besides just the main plot.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of plot,
the plot is awesome.
What the hell is this story?
I'm gonna give a brief summary of it, and this
okay,
may
I'll fill in some gaps because I had to literally look up. I played the beginning intro like 4 times just so I can get a grasp on this just clusterfuck of a story.
Waste of time. You're looking too deep into it. So essentially the plot is, for some reason that I can't exactly remember off the top of my head, all the women in the world have just gone off from existence. They're no longer around. The last 2 women are like the main villain and your wife. And essentially the plot is like, well, we need your wife to breed, so we're going to make your wife a sex slave. So Madison gets kidnapped and you're like, well, good thing I have a fucking tank, and you just go save her. I have multiple tanks, actually.
Oh boy.
It's a stupid plot, but it's so funny.
It's yeah, that's the loose version. You want the actual game version?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I like the loose version better.
The loose version is accurate. But the names is what gets me.
Yeah.
So, the evil Lord Cassandra, evil Queen Lord, because they have King Lords and Queen Lords of apocalyptic areas and cities. You have a designated killer, like in Fist of the North Star, if you've heard of that anime.
I know the games more than the anime.
So Cassandra tries to kill King Lord Griffin Spade's family and then kidnaps the son Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Griffin's army is trying to fight back, but they get mind-controlled by Cassandra during the resistance in the city of San Francisco.
Yes, San Francisco. By the way, don't you like the very accurate representation of that city?
Oh, I could totally tell I was there. There was some water and a couple hills.
The whole town is flat, really, essentially. San Francisco
there was at least 2 hills. There was 2 hills.
The one in Sonic Adventure and then like a small anthill.
Yeah. Oh, man. So Melissa actually escapes, and Griffin and his wife chase after Cassandra, trying to get their son back. So that's the whole plot. Yeah. And Griffin and Melissa, I guess, have some kind of falling out because you can choose between Melissa's little apocalyptic group and Griffin's group. Because you can choose different resistance groups to fight against Cassandra.
Right.
And like you said, the very important note that they just kind of throw at you is, in 2001, a virus was released that killed 99.9% of women. The Earth fell into chaos where tanks became the main weapon because reasons.
Because tanks are the first thing we should go to. Not just like straight weaponry. Not like something that doesn't need a whole lot of upkeep. Nah, I got a bunch of tanks. It's fine. Who's producing these tanks?
It's fine. And these tanks are ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely. My favorite is the... sorry, go ahead first.
Each military group seems to have developed their own super tank.
Yup.
And what is your favorite type of tank?
So you got your rundown of your standard one. There's this little, I call it the RC car. There's this little tank, which is super fast, but it's very tiny. It can be run over by other tanks, so stay away. And like it can go over jumps, what you need to do to get in some areas. But the best tank is either the Goliath or the flamethrower tank, because the most effective weapon on a tank is a very short-range flamethrower.
I had a lot of fun with this tank called the Flippy Tank.
Oh, that's the other one I like.
It was like Axel from the Twisted Metal series, but he's got jets on both sides, so you can weave in and out real quick. I couldn't seem to get hit as long as I was this tank. Yeah,
you can just swerve around your enemies. There's another one I like. It has like a triangle treads, and the gun is a little tiny Gatling gun on the front. And I can't remember the name of it, but that tank was very mobile and it was like it did enough damage. There's just good diversity in this, so like there's always something.
The diversity in the tanks is incredible. I wasn't able to actually play this in co-op multiplayer, right, but I was able to try and play one of the like deathmatch modes or What was a couple other modes?
There's like rescue the maidens, which was a weird mission.
Yeah, rescue all the women. The women have somehow made their own resistance groups as well, which kind of makes sense.
So wait, did you play the N64 or the PS1 version again?
So I actually tried both.
Okay. So the N64 one, I like when you rescue the maidens. They're just these like cardboard cutouts of like heads. It's like, yeah, that's a woman, I guess. And that's pretty much all they got left. I don't know how the PS1 one fares up because I grew up with the N64 one, and I know that one front to back essentially. And then when I learned it was on PS1, I was like, well, get rid of this copy. I want it on PS1.
So going into the kind of the differences between the two games on the different consoles, the PlayStation had video and voice acting in the story mode, which made the story mode much more enjoyable to me. While the Nintendo 64 just had slideshow and texts, which was very prominent on the console. On the first episode of Red Leaf Retrocast, we went over StarCraft, how the incredibly deep and crazy storyline was just slideshow and text, and you definitely lose a lot of the story. And I definitely felt the same way here. There's something about video and voice acting which makes you care about the story more, as opposed to just slideshow and text. I feel that's the previous console generation and prior ones.
Cutscenes back in the day because I was like, I'm not reading this.
However, being that the PlayStation had the better sound effects, looks nice, the explosions were oh so satisfying. If you wanted to play this game in multiplayer, there was no other way than to do the Nintendo 64 version.
Really?
The frame rate hardly drops. The multiplayer is amazing. It's much more playable.
And on PS1 when it's sloppy?
It's a hot garbage mess.
That's disappointing because I was like, it's probably way better on PS1 to play with somebody.
No, because the PlayStation's a disc console and the amount of shit that's happening during the multiplayer mode, the game just can't keep up. But the fact that the N64 is a cart and the quick load times, it can render everything so much better. And because the graphics are lower, it doesn't have to process as much information as the PlayStation's trying to do.
I guess that's fair. I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah. There's one mode in particular, and I'm really trying to remember what the mode was called, but it's essentially just a free-for-all. There's like 5 teams on the map. There's like 30 tanks going along.
It's essentially a team deathmatch kind of thing, but
it's a shit show.
Yeah,
it's called Tank Wars. It's called Tank Wars.
Tank Wars.
You try playing on the PlayStation, it's a chug.
It's a straight chug. I try it just to like try it now, but
the N64 even kind of chugs in that mode because it's like 30 tanks just blowing the crap out of each other.
The way it was meant to be. No, it's a really good game that nobody's played, which I'm a little shocked about. But I mean, it's not the most popular
when I was asking my friends back from my junior high and high school days, the ones I knew had an N64, I was like, hey Joey, did you have battle tanks by any chance? He's like, oh yeah, I had that on the 64. It's like, did you play that with your brothers and sisters? And like, all the time. Parents had to take it away because we'd just constantly get in fights.
Awesome game. And it's the thing is, like, so that we didn't really talk about the sub weapons of the game, but you have your main guns, which have limited ammo, kind of. We'll get there. There's all these little cubes around the map, at least on the N64 version, where you can get like a radar, like 3-way missiles, like homing missiles, a fucking nuke. It just wipes out everything. And the thing is, like, the game knows it's like nonsense and crazy, because I know in the N64 version, you can just straight up go in the options and turn on unlimited ammo. I didn't know that was even an option. That seems really odd, but not even a cheat code. It's just like, you want unlimited ammo? I'm like, hell fucking yeah.
Here you go. Why beat around the bush?
Oh, absolutely not. The game is awesome, especially playing a 2-player. You could probably beat that campaign in like, I think 2 hours if you try.
It's quite short. Mm-hmm. It's quite short. That was my main gripe about it.
But it's very replayable because it's so short. And that's the thing modern games don't do. Like a campaign in a modern game is like you got to spend an hour doing a tutorial. You have to, if you haven't installed and updated the game first, you have to do a tutorial. Then you get to like a real mission. And like maybe the first couple of missions are slow, and you're like, it's hard for me to replay a game nowadays because I'm like, there's so much shit I don't want to like go back and do. But like playing Battle Tanks, I would do that. I literally beat the campaign 3 times in one day when I was little.
Oh wow.
This is awesome.
I beat the campaign on the PlayStation, and I didn't do it on the N64. I just did the multiplayer, which was so much more enjoyable. It's almost like you want to have both versions if that's possible. You play the co-op or story mode on the PlayStation, and then if you want to do multiplayer, pop in that cartridge. There's just no other way. It's one of the I can't think of another game that I would actually prefer to have 2 different copies for 2 totally different playing experiences.
It's weird because normally I don't keep 2 copies of the same game, and I've never found, at least on a personal experience, that like one game version was like so significantly better where like I had to have it on like one system versus the other. But like it sounds like Battle Tanks is something I need that for.
Yeah, it really is. I was pleasantly surprised. I'm like, man, I really want to play multiplayer, but you can't do it on the PlayStation. And then when I'm on the N64, I'm like, I kind of want to play the story mode, but it's not very good on the N64. So it looks so much better on the PlayStation.
When we get that Global Tanks HD collection. I'm waiting for it.
Well, I mean, I think the 3DO company still... No, someone bought the 3DO company rights.
On purpose?
All those games.
They bought it on purpose?
I think someone did.
Give it back. You don't want that.
Oh.
So then where's Plumbers Don't Wear Ties HD?
Oh no, I don't know. What really irritated me was the fact that there's friendly fire.
That can be turned off also in the options.
What?
Yep.
I just never even thought about that.
The first thing I do when I'm going in games is I turn on the
Why is it default friendly fire then?
Because they're fucking tanks exploding each other. Like, my buddy exploded. He'll live. And actually, did you?
All right, that makes me.
Did you know you could self-destruct too, or no?
It's funny you mentioned that.
Go ahead.
Anytime I was about to die and playing my friend, I just went full on kamikaze.
Well, did you do it? You hit all 4 of the C buttons, right? That's how you do it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's actually a strategy if you're doing the deathmatch thing, because like there would be a point where I'd be the little tank and I'm running around, but all my friends like they whip out the M1A ones, like the standard tanks, and I was like, all right, I have a low tank count, but I have enough tank credits to buy the Goliath, and I just come out with the Goliath, which is like that one hit kill. And just destroy. But the thing is, anytime my friend picked the Goliath, I would of course screen look and be like, okay, I'm just gonna pick my weakest tank and kamikaze your ass. But the thing is, like, and I like how the tank controls, literally tank controls, where like on the you could use the C stick to like rotate the turret, and like you could actually look around at some tanks.
The controls were extremely responsive on both versions. Yeah. I was really surprised. I was also surprised about how more or less the entire environment was destructible.
More or less, yeah. The building animations kind of have some weird things about them.
Hey, I am totally fine with a building going up in quote unquote smoke, and then what seems to be cardboard falling down from the sky.
They slowly took the zoom tool on like Microsoft Paint, and they were like, all right, squish. All right, we're good.
Well, I mean, that was just the capability of the systems back then, and it doesn't bother me. Sure. I was just hey, I can destroy this building or not, and use it to my advantage or not.
Depends how I'm feeling that day.
Yeah. The house rules definitely became quickly oriented, like no using the Goliath.
Little tanks only. That's the best way to play.
Oh man, it was fun.
If you do small tanks only, trying to catch people is a nightmare.
Yeah, they're just so mobile. I had a lot of fun playing this game. I was pleasantly surprised that the game is still really cheap. The N64 version goes for about $10 to $15.
The PS1, I think, is around the same. I think I got mine for like
the PlayStation version's about $5.
I was gonna say, I think I got mine for around like $6, like complete.
Yeah, it's It's something I'm definitely going to be looking further into. I don't want to keep borrowing it from my friend.
Will we see a Muschenspiel video?
I don't know. Maybe.
Ooh.
We'll see. I might just screw around on my own time. There's so many games to play, man. You know the.
If you could see the wall behind me right now. And I've dumped most of my cartridges, so that cut down some of it.
Yeah, we're kind of more or less on a retro game kick. We've wanted to do that for a while. We're just busted. We want to beat one game on every console at least before we hit the same console again.
That's a good goal to go for.
Yeah, that way we diverse our portfolio.
We're getting too resume-y here. Trying to seem a little too smart with your photosynthesis. Other big words.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of photosynthesis, which it has nothing to do with...
Perfect.
Oh, this game we're about to go into.
Oh, come on. Oh, you said, I'm not sure if you're saying it like a bad thing or a good thing, though.
No, it's just memories of playing the game are just so good. And it just creates this sense of
photosynthesis,
peace.
Right. Oh.
It creates the sense of photosynthesis. It's called Gunstar Heroes.
Hell yeah.
And it's developed by Treasure, which we'll get into a little later about this little company here, and it's published by Sega. It was released in 1993 on the Sega Genesis, and it's a run and gun with co-op multiplayer options. Naturally.
Awesomeness.
Oh, this game.
It's wonderful.
Oh my god. I'm very happy we played this again. It's got its difficulty, that's for sure.
Too much difficulty sometimes, I gotta say.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's got a fun little plot. It's very 90s.
Blow up the bad thing.
Oh, bad guy came. Stop bad guy.
Stop bad guy. He's not nice, man.
But I've never actually paid close enough attention to it, and I did just specifically for the podcast. And it's a little bit different than what it seems to be on the surface. So you ready for this?
I am.
In Evil Empire, let's call it Germany.
Yeah, you might as well.
That's pretty much what they do. The original version, actually, the enemy was Hitler. But they had to remove the mustache from him.
Well, that makes it all better.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, let's just call it Germany like it is. Let's not beat around the bush here.
Like in Bionic Commando, you're fighting the Nas.
Right. Not the Nas, I mean. So this evil empire wants to revive this super android called Gold and Silver.
Pokemon?
It wants to revive the evil Pokemon game. A Professor Brown finds the Gunstars in stasis, whom previously defeated Gold and Silver. So we got this kind of Power Rangers-esque aspect to it, because Power Rangers was huge at the time. And together they fight back against the Empire by gathering these revival gems. So that's what you're searching for. So it's kind of your Sonic element of get the Chaos Emeralds before the evil guy does, and then, of course, he'll take it from you.
Well, yeah, that's what bad guys do.
Yeah. And you go through all these levels defeating the evil empire's lieutenants. Or lieutenants, if you're from the UK.
Heyo.
Now we can get into the gameplay. What did you think?
So the gameplay, it's weird because being that it's a run and gun, and if you're familiar with Contra at all, you may know, like in Contra, at least on NES and like Super Nintendo, when you move, you're also shooting. And in Gunstar Heroes, you have the choice between a free shot and a fixed shot. Now, free shot is just like Contra, where you can run and shoot at the same time. So, by instinct, that's the one I always want to pick. However, in Gunstar Heroes, I find it's better to do the fixed shot. Because there's so much stuff going on screen that if you're running and shooting, like Contra has a lot of stuff going on, but like this has so much stuff where if I'm moving and shooting and not paying attention, I end up dying most of the time. So
there are definitely certain levels where if you're running too much, you will get hit with a barrage of bullets.
Right. But the thing is, once you pick free or fixed shot, you're committed. That's it.
Yeah, you're stuck. I could definitely tell you there's two levels where I definitely would have preferred the fixed, and there's 2 levels, I would have preferred the free.
And I think that comes into the co-op aspect of it, where like one of you has to pick like free or fixed.
Exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
And you almost have to. The other element to it being is that there's 4 basic elements you can pick for your gun. You have your like basic pea shooter. There's a fire shot, a lightning shot, and like a homing shot, I guess you can call it. I call it the arrow shot, but I'm weird. And
arrow shot's fine, yeah. Yeah, it's just this green triangle.
So they all have their thing. Like the lightning and the fire do like DPS. You know, the homing shot goes through your enemies, and the bullets go whichever way you're shooting. But you can also combine them. So you can,
it's so good.
Yeah, and you can combine. I find the best thing is to always have the basic shooter on you, and then combine it with an element, because it's like a basic gun with an element attack. Or I do homing in one of the other ones. And
yeah, it really depends on your gameplay preference,
right? And those are important to decide, will I do free or fixed? Because if you're doing free shot, I like the homing thing. That way I can just fire my gun off and I jump over enemies. I'm not worried about like where I'm going.
There was nothing more funny to me when I first started playing this game. The first time I ever did was I discovered the homing kind of missile combination where you're just standing there and you're just holding down the fire button and spraying your gun above you in all different directions to see all these triangles going off everywhere.
Absolute best way. I love doing the homing shot. The homing shot in the like games I almost feels like broken, but in this game, like because it's so hard, like it's kind of fair to do that. Like,
the game, like you said, the game does have its difficulty curve to it. But if you're using that homing weapon, that's just it made the game a bit too easy.
It's almost essential. Like it's kind of like you need it, but then like it's too easy. So you're like, what do I do?
But the weapon is significantly weaker.
Yeah, it's very
so
weak.
It does have its draw. Like you have to be careful to just not get, because if you're using fixed shot in this homing weapon, it takes a long time for your character it takes a couple frames for your character to finally start moving again.
Oh, absolutely does. And
that's where I've never beaten the game on fixed shot. No. I've only beat it on the free shot.
You may think like, it's doing enough damage for like me to like deal with it. But actually when you get to the boss fight of the game, they have not a life bar but a life number counter. And you can tell when you're using the homing shot, like it's going down real slow.
Oh, it's bad. You never want to face a boss or a mid boss for that matter with the homing weapon.
And you also get
going through the levels. The homing weapon's totally fine, especially on this minecart level.
I hate that level so much.
I don't like the level, but the boss is amazing.
Yeah, it is. I cannot deny that.
It's one of my favorite bosses in video games to this day, and replaying the game for the podcast here just reinforced my love for what Treasure did with this game.
Everything they did with this game is amazing. It's one of those games where like it's again doable single player. You might want to have somebody there though to actually get anywhere. But that's
the co-op aspect does make that difficulty curve go down quite a bit. That's not to say that you can't beat it by yourself. The first 4 stages is you want to get by that, try and beat that without getting a game over, because there is infinite continues. And for me to just absolutely love a retro game, if it has infinite continues, to me that's the company saying, please beat our game, please complete it. Whether that be a Mega Man, whether that be Gunstar Heroes. But if we're talking in terms of like a Ninja Gaiden 3, Castlevania 3, Contra, it's basically the company saying, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, no, that's literally what it is. Luckily, the Gunstar Heroes, it's fun, but you do have the ability to. You don't have to. When you can pick up the 2 weapon types and combine weapons, but you're not committed to that. You can use the solo weapon if you find it more convenient, which I thought was a smart move on their part.
Yeah, there's a total of 14 different combinations. That's insane
for an old game like that, especially like.
That's insane.
It always made me a little sad like Contra 3 didn't let you combine the weapons, but you could switch back and forth. But then Gunstar was just like, nah, watch this though. So I thought that was a smart move on their part, because some bosses just respond better or worse depending on what end you're on. But like you do more damage with like just straight fire or just lightning. Like you could use both, but like
and enemies kind of have a weakness. Whether I found, just going back to my favorite boss, he's called Seven Force.
They have names.
Because he transforms 7 times.
I didn't even know they had names, honestly.
Yeah, it's whether you look it up online or the manual, it's the Seven Force boss. I've noticed that for one transformation, you might want the flamethrower. For another one, you might want just the regular shooter. It's and the fact that the game was able to have all these all the graphics, the colors to explosions, never really any slowdown at all. I hardly ever noticed it playing the game. It just blew my mind away how in 1993 they were able to pull this off. I mean, there's a game that I kept going back to in my head, Shovel Knight.
Hell yeah. My favorite indie game of all time.
Such a good game, indie game.
I bought it 5 times, I think.
I think I have 2 copies myself, the mobile and the console version. But anyways, I was just like, wow, this is what Shovel Knight was back in the 90s. There was so much similarities to it. It's almost like Shovel Knight took, hey, let's look at Gunstar Heroes, and we need to make our game at least this good.
And everyone compares when they think Shovel Knight. They do. I actually see the same thing you do. Everyone goes like, "Oh, it's so much like DuckTales or Mega Man or Zelda 2." I'm like, it's like Gunstar Heroes. What the hell are y'all talking about?
Like, it has Mega Man where you can go up and down on the screen, and then you can jump on your shovel.
Yeah,
that's
but
like
those
DuckTales.
are like aesthetic.
That's one. It's aesthetic things, but because I hadn't played Gunstar Heroes since Shovel Knight came out. And when I went and played this, I just kept going, oh my god, Shovel Knight took this game and made it their own game.
And they did
into a platformer instead of a run and gun.
They did a wonderful job.
And I say bravo. What a game to base your game off of. The Gunstar Heroes is crazy. This to me is, when I think of run and gun games now, there's 2 games I think of. It's Contra and Gunstar Heroes.
I always immediately default to Gunstar Heroes. Immediately.
I can never choose between the first Contra or Gunstar Heroes. I think Contra just because of the nostalgia thing, and Gunstar Heroes is just because I didn't discover it until the mid 2000s, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. I was late to the party on this.
There is one thing about Gunstar Heroes we can't ignore though.
What's that?
While the levels were good, that fucking board game level.
Okay, you know what? I did want to get into that.
This fucking
that 4th stage.
Well, it's not 4th. You can do it in any order. Don't forget.
Right. So anyone going back to play this game, just play that 4th. Play through it a couple times, and then when you get to that 4th stage, you probably want a game over on purpose, and then play the 4th stage first, and then go to the other stage. I died so many times. That stupid board game can go to hell.
The thing is, it makes you... I feel like those dice rolls are predetermined, because this board game, essentially, there's like one chance at like winning, but almost like... There's got to be like, let's say there's 20 tiles. 15 of them are boss fights. And it's just a boss rush, and you're going to get scraped. And then there's one... Like, I remember getting to the end of it. I was almost at the end of this board game. And it landed on the space that said, like, take your weapon or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was at the end. It was essentially like, nah, you're screwed for the next fight. And I was like, well, here we go. I guess I'll never beat this game. Like...
Oh, have you ever beaten Gunstar Heroes?
Hell no. What you think? I am some kind of crazy person?
Oh, come on.
It's
Infinite Continues. That just means you...
It came out in 3DS, and I was like, I have hope.
Perseverance, man. Perseverance.
No.
You need to at least...
I also don't need to have a stroke.
I will go out and say, play this on an emulator and save state, just so you can get those later levels, because they're just as good as the beginning ones. The game never misses a beat. The pacing is so good, and it's a lot longer than you think, too.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, I will say, speaking of where you can access this game, they've kept it alive. Like, Gunstar Heroes is easy to get, obviously an emulator. You can buy it on Genesis if you want, but it's one of those games that just keeps going up.
You can buy it on Steam.
You can buy it on Steam. You could buy it on 3DS. And the way I actually played it the first time around is you could buy it on PlayStation 3.
You can. It's the availability of Gunstar Heroes is a great example of people trying to keep video games in the loop as a part of history, and this is fantastic. Now, one other thing I want to get into is this company Treasure, the developer that made this game. Mm-hmm. This was their first game ever that they made.
Good job.
Alone. And to make a pretty much genre-defining game is remarkable.
Well, they have the experience because I think Treasure, if I'm correct, was a bunch of ex-Konami employees. I believe so.
I believe it's actually Capcom.
Capcom or Konami, one of those. They're like the same company.
It's
around that time
one of the two.
So they have the quality standard behind them, but then like for them just to be like, look, we're doing our own thing, and just to nail it the first time.
Well, just some other games that Treasure has made is along the lines of Sin and Punishment, Mischief Makers on the N64, Alien Soldier, which is another one I love, and I'm just like, wow, this company does no wrong. And
weirdly enough, they were always like a company that was like, we're not going to do a sequel to a game. We want one experience, and we're going to do it right, and then that's it. But they did make a sequel to Gunstar Heroes, which I'm not too familiar with. I don't know if you are or not.
They did. I did look it up. I was like, man, is there a sequel to this game? There is a sequel, and it's on the Game Boy Advance, and it's about $40. It was not made by Treasure.
It's $40 now?
Yeah.
Dude, no way. You've got to be kidding me.
Oh my god. You can get it off like eBay for $40.
Dude, when I worked...
It's more anime themed.
No.
So they tried to put more of a story in there, but the gameplay is still there, and it's on the GBA. So
that's ridiculous.
It maintained from what I could see.
$40 new.
No, well, yeah.
I'm thinking like the loose. So when I worked in a game store, I was like, we priced that game to $7. Are you serious? Like, I guess no.
I'm kind of looking at like the max price you'll pay.
Yeah, okay. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I have a copy.
Yeah. So one last bit of facts about how Gunstar Heroes came to be is, I don't know if you knew this, but this game was actually turned down by pretty much all of the Sega America producers.
And they were wrong. It
was originally turned down. And it was just, I think, one dude from Sega of America that played the game, and he was trying to convince him, no guys, come on. This game's actually good. Please. And he had to basically force one of the other Sega of America producers to pick up the controller and play the game. And then when he finally started playing the game, now there was two of them, and it finally kind of got the approval, and thank God, because if this wasn't Game of the Year in 1993, I don't know what would have been.
I can't imagine.
It might be worth looking up later, but I'm very curious.
I was too young to know.
But the main reason why it was turned down is because the sprites were too small. Because back then, the bigger the sprites is kind of what people were into, and that's what they thought would be the sole reason of selling games, kind of what the Neo Geo was putting out.
But that's, graphics never beat gameplay. And I think that's something that's been just repeated through history.
Graphics are never the sole definer of a game, and Gunstar Heroes is definitely a prime example of that, how everything else in the game graphically could look amazing, and just to have one thing, you're all negative Nancy about it with the sprites being too small, for example. It's like, come on, just try it out and then decide.
Yeah, but they did, and now they know.
And now they know, and thank you, this game, and it really makes you wonder how many other games could have been turned down for such trivial reasons.
I have one that personally affects me, but I'll leave that to another day.
Was it Star Fox 2 or something?
It's Legend of Dragoon 2. Which I just learned was a thing, and then Sony canceled, and I'm just gonna not cry right now. That's
fine. It may have been, yeah. Just one of their lower end titles.
Lower end nothing. You don't use those words for that game.
No, it's a good game, but it just didn't sell as well as the other RPGs.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
Again, another day. Gunstar Heroes. It's when I got it, it was around the $20 range years ago. Yeah. Now it's running for about $50, so it's not getting any cheaper.
No.
And for a Sega and for a Genesis game, Genesis are usually on the cheaper side.
If this was on Super Nintendo, it'd be a $200 game, no doubt.
Oh, for sure. It'd be in the Chrono Trigger realm of prices.
The unnecessary level.
Yeah. So get this game while you still have a chance, I suppose, while it's under $100.
Or a PS3. Go the PS3 route.
Or just, if you don't want it on the Genesis, there's plenty of other ways to get it. Wii Virtual Console, PS3, Sega Genesis Collection. We went over quite a few. It's on everything.
Accessible and wonderful.
It's fantastic. I adore this game. It might be my favorite Genesis game.
Ooh, bold claim.
It might be. Yeah. So why don't we take a little break?
Yes, sir.
And we'll get into our last 3 titles.
Word.
Are you ready for our next 3 games?
Maybe.
And these are the ones that I chose for the theme. And I kind of struggled because honestly the couch co-op multiplayer is almost hard to come by.
It is. When you threw that curveball at me that it had to be a game like over 15 years, I was like, oh man, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, there was no online back then. I mean, it did exist, but no one used it. No one used dial-up anything.
Come on, the Intellivision online play? Nobody did that?
Well, the first game that I chose was, I wanted to break the mold big time, and I chose Metal Slug 2. Developed and published by SNK. It was released in 1998 on the Neo Geo CD. And it was originally released on the Neo Geo MVS console in 1994. And the reason why I chose the CD is just because it's more console-ish than an arcade thing in a box that's incredibly expensive that no one can afford.
Sure you could. It was only like $700.
$700 back in 1992?
Everyone had that. It was fun. The economy was great. We had Clinton, Or
93 or whatever. But anyways, the Metal Slug series is a run and gun genre with co-op multiplayer. They're all like that. And I chose Metal Slug 2 in particular because this was the one that was remade later into Metal Slug X. Because there was some issues in the game, and they felt like they didn't do the game justice.
What were the differences, really?
I'll get into that a little later.
Okay.
Because the plot's a little ridiculous. The game's a lot of fun.
Plot.
Yeah, well, all the Metal Slugs seem to have this plot to it that you can pseudo pay attention to. It's quite funny. It goes to the humor that the franchise is renowned for. And the reason why I bring up Neo Geo CD again is it's just one of those consoles that, as a game collector, you always seem to want to own, but never pull the trigger on it. Because of it, whether it's expensive or it's rare or what are the odds you get a working one. But God, is it good. It's so good. And to come out in the 90s.
It's really, the thing is, the game is actually it's really aesthetically so appealing to the whole 90s thing too. The art style is something you'd see out of a newspaper comic at the time.
Oh, it's everything's hand drawn in the game, almost like you can screenshot each individual piece of game into a wallpaper.
Oh, absolutely.
It just looks so good. I'm a big fan of what Neo Geo is and what they tried to do. And it's a real shame that it wasn't. I feel that if the console would have been released in the later to mid 90s, as opposed to the early ones, I think it would have gotten a better reception.
Well, it was supported for a long, long time.
It's the longest console support of all time, I believe.
Really?
I think the PS2 either tied it or they missed it out on a year.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was that supported.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Games were coming out until, I want to say, 2004 or something.
And then you got the Neo Geo X, man. The gold, the little handheld. Yeah, just, let's pretend it doesn't exist.
They kept it going. And I was so infatuated with Neo Geo growing up that I actually got a Neo Geo Pocket Color instead of a Game Boy Advance.
Like a cool kid.
Well, I was like, oh, everyone's got a Game Boy. I want to be different. And this is the only one that this is the only Neo Geo that anyone's ever going to afford. I digress. Metal Slug 2, and it's another run and gun, much like our Gunstar Heroes, but it's very much different in plot. It takes place 2 years after the original Metal Slug, the first game. General Morden is back, the evil enemy of the first game, and he's basically taken all these sympathetic factions together into stage another coup d'etat. Because you thought he died, and he's come back. Yeah. He's got his minion. He's got a group of minions again. And of course, in what Metal Slug has become is the last level you fight an alien mothership.
Because of course.
Yeah, as you progress through the game, you realize all of a sudden you're fighting these alien creatures, and you're like, oh, I guess the evil generals aligned himself with aliens, and then there's a funny little betrayal at the end. It's quite comical. Again, the humor is great. Now, what Metal Slug X did, the remade, is, because I definitely noticed these, because I'd never played Metal Slug 2 before. I've only played X. There's a lot of issues with slowdown that were fixed, especially in those later levels. I mean, once you get to mission 5, which is around that last level, the slowdown is awful. The lag just hurts. Did you notice that?
When you played your version, which one did you play?
So I played the Metal Slug Anthology version on the GameCube. Or on the Wii with the GameCube controller.
Okay. That's a version I had. I didn't have a lot of slowdown, but I was playing... This is going to be weird. I was playing a arcade game on a compilation disc on the Wii, which is being played on the Wii U. So, like, I don't...
So you're triple emulating it?
Yeah, kind of. So, like, I don't know if somehow, like, I didn't have a lot of slowdown, or at least something not super noticeable, I guess. But, like...
That's interesting. It could be the port, but supposedly... it remains faithful to the original, which is why on that same compilation disc, X is on that same one, so you can see the difference. So I actually went and started playing the X version, because the games are short, especially if you just have infinite continues on.
Yeah, they're like 40 minutes.
So I played to that same part of the level again, and there was hardly any slowdown at all. It was almost not even noticeable for the X version. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely one thing that was different. They changed up day and night scenes because I guess they got a better handle on the system back then, and better maybe put a mood in on certain scenes. They changed up the boss orders and increased the enemies so much more in X.
It's kind of a risky move. They're like, we got to fix the slowdown. More enemies on screen. No, you're not getting it.
It was an increase of enemies for the earlier levels. They didn't really do anything different for Mission 5, that last one. There are more power-ups throughout X compared to 2, so it made the game actually much easier and playable. I think I only died in the X version maybe 10 times.
Chronologically, did X come before or after 3?
It was way after.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. They remixed the music quite a bit as well, I noticed. I'm not sure why. I think it had something to do with changing the day and night scenes again, just to kind of set this different mood.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, they were like, we need to justify remaking this more, like, people will notice, kind of thing. And, like, music's the way to go. Like, people will pick that up, you know?
Yeah, you pick it up almost immediately, and it's not like they changed the art style, because that animation, going back to it, is fantastic. I mean, you get... The amount of subtle details in the game is incredible, whether it's setting the soldiers on fire and they're like grabbing their hair and running back and forth. It's so much. It's so fun. Eating eating too much food. Once you get to mission 4, your character gets fat and their weapons get stronger.
Really funny, actually. I really like
They're
that.
like sweating and going. It's so funny. But that's another thing. In the X version, you could eat food earlier in the level, like in the earlier missions, and get fat. While in 2, it wasn't until the mission 4 that was even an option that happened.
But it's really funny when it does.
Oh, it's hilarious, and they put that in the later games.
I wish you could play through the whole game as like fat character.
They're so slow. Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, it is.
There's things in the background just constantly moving. There's things going on in the foreground, sort of. I mean, when you first start the game on that first level, there's like a dude getting evicted from his home. I like stood there and watched that little scene play, and then you even come across that same businessman like chasing down a child in a later mission.
The backgrounds were kind of like, it's one of those like, is juxtaposition the word? I don't know. Where it's like you want to pay attention.
Photosynthesis is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, the word is. There's so much photosynthesis in the game where you want to see everything going on in the background because it's comical. You miss some little jokes, but like you die kind of thing, you know. But if it didn't have that charm, it'd be like, it's just another generic like run and gun. So it's like, who cares?
Oh, I think if the humor wasn't in this game, it wouldn't nearly be as successful as it is today.
Absolutely not. Well, it's well remembered for the humor, you know.
The humor, I mean, I love it. I mean, even the idle animations are great. The world is always reacting around you. I mean, God, what level is it? I believe it's the 3rd mission where it's the 4th mission where you're going through this town and everything is exploding. I mean, you literally destroy. It's almost like you're in Syria and you're just causing mayhem.
I think you are in Syria in the first level.
Yes, I believe so.
It's weird when like a game so cartoony uses like real world areas because you're like, I don't know. It's almost like in some part of my mind's like, well, I got to take this seriously, and then I'm like, nah, never mind though. It's kind of funny. There's a couple of levels that stand out to me, and the first one being like in Metal Slug 1. As much as I like that game, I couldn't tell you one level from the next almost. Like, it all kind of ends up looking samey. But, like, that haunted house level you're in Metal Slug 2, like, that was cool. And
are you referring to the one where
it's not a haunted house.
Goop turns you into a mummy form?
Yeah, it's not really a house. I immediately see haunted stuff and I go haunted house. But it's more like just like a Gothic
the Metal Slug
Valley
series is always... It always has something to do with... There's always a level that changes you into something.
Fat character mummies.
Mummies, or God, what were you in Metal Slug 3? I think you were a zombie.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm always like 50-50 on that level on that level in the Metal Slug games, and the mummy one, I was like, why? I didn't really.
There wasn't a reason. It was just good.
It's just out of place. It's just something to give that humor aspect to the game.
That train level was good.
So the train level actually irritated me.
Really?
Because I strive in these Metal Slug games to try and do 1 credit per stage, 1 credit clear per stage.
What do you do if you don't make that though?
Well, so I play it through a few times, and then because I can beat Metal Slug 3 these days on 3 lives, which is I think accomplishing. And for Metal Slug 2, forget mission 5. I got to the point where the lag was so bad that it wasn't possible to 1 credit clear that.
Yeah,
but on
it gets bad.
Well, it gets really hard. The upgrades aren't there, but that train level really irritated me.
I like the aesthetic of it, I guess, more than the actual playing of it.
The level's fun. It has great ideas, but the fact that that stupid subway car, you're just shooting it, and it's almost impossible to avoid it hitting you. At least one of them, because you get 3 of them in a row, you're gonna run out of ammo before that 3rd train comes, and it killed me every time.
There's a pattern of like most arcade games. Eventually you get it, but it's such a subtle pattern because, again, being an arcade game, it wants you to die. That's just something you got to keep in mind. Like, this game wants you to die. It wants your quarters.
Oh my god, they purposely make the game crap hard because take my money. That's why.
I'm telling you, man. But my buddy and someone else at like a random barcade near us, they did it on one quarter.
Maybe it was the Metal Slug X version because
it was 2.
It was 2.
It was a Neo Geo MVS cabinet. It said 2.
Oh, so the slowdown probably wasn't there on Mission 5.
You know what? I didn't even take that into account. That probably could be it.
I could totally see that, but playing on I could imagine the slowdown being there on the Neo Geo CD version. I'm so close to just pulling the trigger, saving up money, and spending top dollar on a Neo Geo CD.
And by the time you get home from work, the game will be loaded.
I'm just so afraid of getting something along the lines of Metal Slug 2 and just getting to that Mission 5 and that slowdown being so bad.
You just gotta take the risk, man. I don't think it will be as bad as you think it will be, but there's just so many other ways to play Metal Slug that it's just like, dude, you really want to spend the money on it, kind of thing, you know?
I'm curious. I need to look this up after the podcast if the Neo Geo CD version has the Infinite Continues like the Wii port I played, the Anthology.
I am gonna probably guess no, because the Wii port
I'm thinking you're right.
It's simulating the arcade version, but you know you can't do that, so they have to put like a little insert quarter thing. So
yeah, maybe there's a button option where you can click to continue. So now I'm curious, what character did you find yourself playing as the most?
Here's the thing. So when it comes to games that like I do this with like things like Overwatch too. The characters are so similar in Metal Slug where I literally go on random.org and I put in 1 through 4 and I just let fate take the wheel. So I do that in Overwatch all the time. I'm like, who am I playing as today? So I don't really have a favorite, and I've never thought one character was really better than the others in Metal Slug. But who did I play as the most? I don't know. I can't think I played as anybody the most, really.
I find myself for the Metal Slug games, particularly being who's ever in that 4th spot.
Always?
It always seems to be who's ever in that 4th spot, whether it's 2, 3, 4, etc. The character's always on the little shorter side, got a little ponytail going on. I don't know. It's just that aesthetic feeling for me. I don't know. I like it.
Hey. I mean, whatever. I mean, the thing is, I couldn't even tell you like a Metal Slug character's name. I just know like blonde guy with comb over and picking that dude. It's like they're memorable visually characters, but like I couldn't tell you a name of a character.
Oh, I couldn't tell you a single name either. I can't quite remember, but I'm always that 4th spot character,
which is fair.
Yeah, I'm never the 3rd one ever.
Why is that one just like bad luck?
I never seem to do well with that character.
You know, if I was going to say, if I don't think Metal Slug has online play, but the servers are down anyway, maybe we got to co-op this.
So, if you're curious, the Anthology versions for the Wii for the Metal Slug Anthology is running about $30.
Ooh, it went up.
Yeah, it was $20 for a while, and it's gone up. The PS2 version is anywhere from $50 to $80.
And you can just buy the Wii version. Perfect.
It's fine.
And I will say, if you get the Wii version, make sure you have a classic controller. Because I was unaware that you could play with that. So I was playing the Wii remote, and you have to shake it to throw a grenade, and I almost wanted to kill myself.
Yeah, that's why I play with the GameCube controller.
Yeah, I forgot that you could totally use like the classic or something, so...
Yeah. The I don't know why they put that in as a mechanic, but
well, it was a launch game, so they had to justify the Wii motion controls.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. All right, that makes a little bit more sense now.
Now they were like, but it has motion controls, and they're like, fucking great. Can we not though?
Oh boy. So the Neo Geo CD version, just finishing up, is $110.
So the Wii version it. Oh, PSP. There's a PSP port.
There is the Metal Slug Anthology for PSP.
I think that one's the most affordable, if I'm correct.
If you have a PSP, but come on, it's a Metal Slug game. You want to play this with a friend and just goof around with Infinite Continues.
You aren't gonna bring your PSPs together. You know what? Which reminds me, I wonder. Speaking of PSP ports, if you go on the PlayStation Store, if it's digital and you can play it on a Vita, that would be a cool way to play it. But now I need to check that for my own self.
Ooh,
that
might be worth checking after the cast.
What's up?
Might be worth checking after the cast then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, Metal Slug 2, it's a fun game. It definitely holds up, but goddamn, Mission 5.
There's one more port we forgot. You can buy it straight, the Metal Slug Anthology for the PS4.
Oh,
and there's Metal Slug XX. Ooh, I gotta try that. But yes, you can buy the Anthology for the PSP and Vita. You can buy it for PS4 as well.
Well, how about that?
So play Metal Slug.
So there are cheaper versions out there.
Yes.
Well, excellent.
Vita, support the Vita. Viva la Vita.
Yeah, I'm more or less getting into the Vita as well. I've got that last PlayStation Network flash sale got me.
Oh, it was so good.
I finally got Breath of the Wild 4, and I put it on the Vita. It was like,
Breath of Fire. I was like,
Breath of the Wild. Breath of Fire 4.
Breath of the Wild 4. I was like, that is not...
Little do you know, my dad works for Nintendo.
I know Mr. Nintendo personally, and he said I could have it on my PSP.
I know Mr. Nintendo.
My uncle works
there. He's really good at photosynthesis, so...
Absolutely. He's actually in the photosynthesis department, so...
All right, our next game is another one chosen by me, as the next two will be, and it's the original Golden Axe, developed and published by Sega, released in 1989.
You cheated. You said no beat 'em ups. You're like, Golden Axe, though. It's my podcast, my rules. I don't need your lies.
Well, I don't consider it a beat 'em up. I consider it a hack and slash.
That is... Just because they have weapons in their hand, does it make it different?
I think it does. I think it makes a pretty much a different genre.
I would like you to state your case for this.
Well, again, beat 'em up is your Streets of Rage or Final Fight. It's your Street Fighter game if it was a 2D side scroller.
Okay.
Hack and slash is more those are generally more along the line of medieval of some kind. You have different weapons, they have different reaches, they have different attacks. You'll generally have some kind of special attack that will clear the screen. There's a lot of gameplay elements that are so vastly different than your beat 'em up. Again, my opinion, you could argue that it's a subcategory of a beat 'em up, but
I think it's a parallel, but you're right.
That's just how could you, and it's so different than all the other games on the list. How could you, I couldn't resist not having it on there.
It deserves a spot to be talked about. There's no doubt about that.
Because we could make a whole cast over just beat 'em up titles.
That would be
of fighting
multiple.
There's so many of those. So, and there's not that many in the lines of what we're about to talk about with Golden Axe. It came out on the Sega Genesis, I believe, as a launch title.
Yeah,
when they were still making Master System games.
The launch title, I believe. Well, it had to be because it was on Master System. It just runs terribly.
Oh, it was made for the Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Alter Beast was a release title, and that's another one that's impossible to play on the Master System, but it's so good on the Genesis.
Let's pretend that version of Alter Beast doesn't exist.
Oh, God.
It's bad.
So, the plot of Golden Axe is, and I did pay attention to it, because I'd never played the original.
It's my first. Stop picking games of plots that don't have plots.
No, every game has a plot, sort of.
Yeah, just like porn.
So basically we have medieval Conan the Barbarian here in a world where the main evil villain's called Death Eater. And he's captured the king and his daughter, and he's basically holding the land hostage, saying, I will kill the royals unless you, the people of Uria, accept me as your leader.
That always works. So
always, right?
Yeah. Nobody's ever gone well, I don't know, he's kind of a jerk. So
no one's ever elected a jerk leader who isolates an entire people, and people then turn to love him, and he finds the Golden Axe as well, because that's a thing. I guess it's like the symbol
like the fire
of
emblem.
It's sort of like the fire emblem, I guess. It's the symbol of the land. It has some sort of mythical value to the area, to the game, and then you when you start the game, you get to pick between 3 characters. You have your dwarf, who carries an axe. You have your barbarian, who's basically Conan the Barbarian, and he has a broadsword. And you have this crazy Amazon lady with a long sword. Longer reach. That's about the difference there.
Would you play?
Longer reach, less power. I always chose the Amazon first, but I found out I had more success with the dwarf.
I was going to say, that's my guy.
Yeah. And you battle through your typical medieval henchmen, such as skeletons and knights. It's a game from '89, so if it was anything medieval, it was always along those lines of enemies.
Anything you saw in He-Man.
Right, and there's a total of 8 stages to fight through, but you really just bust through them. It's really quick.
Real quick
and
game, actually.
To play this game by yourself, as I found out, is incredibly difficult.
Beat 'em ups were made to have somebody with you. You need that backup.
That's where we get into our co-op multiplayer, similar to Goof Troop from earlier. If you play this game with a friend, yes, the game's easier, but it's so much more fun. And it's a lot, and the fact that you can hit each other accidentally just creates that tension. You're just like, son of a bitch, if you hit me one more time, we only have 2 more lives left.
That's like the way, like, it almost goes the Battletoads route. I mean, it's not as bad as Battletoads, but like, it goes that route of like, I am gonna fucking murder you, and we are no longer on a team. This is a competition now.
Yeah, it's like, you be on the left side of the screen, I'll be on the right. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side.
30 seconds, or somebody's like, I was helping you.
I was helping you. I saw you were struggling. I will tell you when I'm struggling.
Well, you won't, because you'll be dead. So there.
And this was definitely the game on the list where I experienced pure rage playing with a friend, but had to play with a friend because it was so much more fun. Oh.
See, the one thing that confused me in this game is you have your magic system and your spells on the bottom, and I do not like the way the magic's laid out, because it's like one window, it's like level 1 magic, and you have like one little bottle potion, and it'll be like level 2 magic, but like there's like 2 bottles in there, and I was like, I never knew how to really read it.
So different characters they have different magic spells, and they have different power depending on the level. So, for example, the Barbarian has better magic spells and stronger, but it requires more potions to get him up to that level, while the Dwarf has quicker magic spells. So, if you're in a boss fight, you kind of want to have the Barbarian to have those full magical powers. While if you're just busting through the game, maybe you want your friend, who's ever the Dwarf, to be using that on kind of the mid-bosses or harder enemy sections.
Gotcha, okay. I never really knew how to read that menu down there.
Yeah. And the way you can refill your magic meter is occasionally these little like troll sprites will come along, and you just boot them in the ass and kick them in the air, and they'll drop these blue bottles.
As in real life, so that's fine.
But there's one level in particular, I think it was like stage 7, where that's where there's bottomless pits around, and you can kick the sprite off the stage, and then you're unable to refill your magic meter, which is so crucial for those boss fights later. You're like, shit! So you're trying to position yourself, but the sprite keeps jumping around. You just get so mad. Oh,
Golden Axe is out to fuck you, man.
Oh, it was so frustrating. It was just, no, I kicked him off the side. Why did I do that? And then you blame your friend because reasons.
Because that's your life now. Like, unfortunately, this is what it is. You're just going to have to live with it.
Oh. What do you think of the animals you could ride?
Not really necessary to the gameplay. I didn't think it didn't add anything.
Just kind of goofy.
It's just, I don't know. It was there. I mean, it was goofy for the time, but it didn't really add or take anything away from the game. So,
what was daunting to me, and this kind of goes into the animals, is whenever you kill an enemy or whenever you have the animal use an attack, the screams just would never end. Just
it goes on for way too long. It was just like, okay.
Because
it was
the
also
music
like
wasn't
Sega
quite
was figuring it out.
The music wasn't quite there in the game. The death sounds weren't quite there. I mean, I love my Master System just as much as a hardcore Sega fan would, but this game truly sounded like it was still on the Sega Master System.
Yeah, but the Sega was still learning. Like, the Genesis was never known for, like, its sound. But, like, that was, like, in the beginning when, like, they were still figuring out even, like, how to make it, like...
Yeah, it was.
work.
This is a title where it was as clear as day. They were still learning. You're absolutely right. The sound effects were weak. The music, the screams were just... It sounded so 8-bit instead of the 16-bit for going into the bit wars.
Yeah. Bits are real. You don't understand.
Oh, man. And I believe there's only 4 continues in the entire game. So even if you're playing co-op and it's more or less easy, once you get a handle on the stages, those limited continues really puts the stress levels up, doesn't it?
It's a stressful beat 'em up. That's the thing. Like, it really is, like, there's a lot going on. Sometimes I feel like the characters are kind of sluggish. So, like, I feel like I'm not moving as fast as I need to get away from an enemy or, like, set myself for, like, an attack.
Yeah, in Golden Axe 2, the characters definitely moved a little bit more nimbly, if that's the correct word. Maybe they photosynthesized more.
Yeah,
I was going
to say, they move a little more photosynthesis than some other characters.
Well, luckily there is a stage select code that you can put in. So if you really like a stage, you can just go straight back to it. So that was very nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that. We ended up, my friend and I ended up dying a few times. We're like, well, fuck it. Let's just put in the stage select code. I want to see how this game ends. And it ends about how you expect it to. It's just, we get to the final boss, you use some magic, and you...
Congratulations.
Congratulations kind of deal. Oh, it was...
I did it on the Sega Collection PS3, and it lets you save state, so, like, I didn't get too frustrated with it.
That's exactly how I played the game as well, but yeah, I chose not to do the save state.
I'm a dirty cheater, and I accept my fate. You know,
we chose to try and play it as faithful to the original as we can, and I think I might end up getting this game for my Mega Drive Genesis deal. It runs about $15, which isn't too bad. That's your typical Genesis title price.
Right. Not to diverge too off, but like Golden Axe 2 or 3, did you play any of those or no?
I'm a big fan of Golden Axe 2, and that's quite a bit more expensive. That's generally regarded as the superior title. I've never played 3, though.
Fair enough.
Never played 3. Didn't it come out on the Saturn?
Wrong. No, that was not Warrior. There was a fighting game on Golden Axe 3. Golden Axe 3 was only European. We never got it here.
Oh, that would explain it.
It's on the Genesis collection, but we did not get it officially.
I've never noticed then.
I've heard it's not the best game.
Oh, boo.
They kind of were like, I guess Sega of America was like, this does not meet our standards, so like they just kind of like pretend it doesn't exist.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah. Well, you can't win them all.
I did find...
Speak your words, child.
Oh, the words I want to say is I found myself spamming the shoulder tackle button constantly after a while.
Because you have to.
It's that's where that's where you could argue it went way too beat 'em up. You know, you just stay at the edge of the screen or go back and forth and just spam the same button over again.
Once you have one move that does the work for you, you know, you shouldn't feel bad about.
Yeah, but it really takes away that challenge to the game.
Yeah, and the problem is once you like have that option, you're like, well, I'm never going to go back. Yeah. I have this.
Well, there's 2 things I want to end our Golden Axe discussion with. There's 2 stages in particular. Because after you beat each stage, it goes into this sad little, and then our warriors moved on after defeating said boss and saved the town. And at the end of stage 2, little did they know the town was built on a giant turtle. And the turtle carried them to their next destination. You're like, wait, what?
Because reasons, motherfucker. How did nobody know this was on top of a turtle for so many years? Don't ask questions. This is the Genesis.
Yeah, and it's just this flat town on top of a turtle. Like, forget the fact that it has a shell, and then it's just its face. It's so goofy looking. And then you get to another stage, it goes, and little did they know, this town was built on a giant bird, and this bird came in and carried us away to our next destination. Like, what is happening here?
Because reasons.
Oh boy. Well, okay, actually I forgot to mention this. At the beginning of the game, when you first choose your characters and they have this little dialogue section, did you notice that each character has their little revenge plot?
Yeah,
they're all very similar.
Assholes.
It really because the game starts out with Death Eater has come, it's captured the town, the royal family needs your help, and then you got your three characters. Yeah, we're more or less in this for revenge. Yeah, he killed my family, killed my village, fuck him.
No, everyone's an asshole in this game.
Saving the royal family is just kind of a side plot, and then when you finally get to the princess, she goes, "Can you do me this one favor?" And I don't think Ader was truly the enemy, and they're just like, "Yeah, sure, I guess we'll do it. We'll go defeat the real enemy."
Nah, though, I'm going home, taking a nap.
It's like, no, I killed the guy that killed our family, but
I've been through some shit today. Look, you can do it yourself, okay?
They're just kind of really unmotivated. I found that really funny.
I don't need this, okay? You're not better than me.
There was the only indication that we had that the characters gave a shit about saving the royal family was, I believe it was the barbarian. He just goes, "We don't want our town to end up like this. We don't want this town of Uria to end up like ours."
I mean, that was good for you. Somebody has a moral compass.
That was the only indication that somebody cared.
I mean, the two people with him were just like, fucking, why do we hang out with you?
Why? No.
No,
I'm an Amazon. I only care about the women that died.
I don't want to. Wonder Woman's coming over at 3. I gotta be home. We were supposed to hang out.
Yeah, we got to photosynthesize later on the beach.
Yeah, that sounds worse than it does. Speaking of photosynthesis, should we move on to Snake Rattle? And
I think so. Golden Axe was fun. It's an old game for sure.
It's real old.
Speaking of old game and frustrating, though.
Oh boy.
Our last title. You kind of hinted to me to play this game because I wanted to put an NES title in here, and it's Snake Rattle and Roll.
I gotta be honest with you, JD. I suggested this mostly because I know it's frustrating as hell. But I also find it a little fun.
It was, man. Upon researching this game after I was finished playing it, things kind of made sense onto why the game is what it is. So first of all, it's developed by Rare and published by both Nintendo and Sega.
Wait, and Sega?
So, in 1990, it was released on the NES, so it was published by Nintendo. Then Rare made a port to the Sega Genesis, so it was published by Sega in 1993.
Oh, that's weird.
And as you can imagine, the Genesis version has slightly better graphics, slightly better sound.
I've never seen a Genesis copy of this stuff.
It looks a little better, but it plays exactly the same.
Never, ever have I known a Genesis copy exists.
Yeah, I looked it up. I played the NES version. I just kind of looked at some gameplay online of the Genesis version, and the dude playing it was just like, these controls fucking suck. I can't see where I'm jumping. This is garbage.
Well, to be fair, this game plays in everyone's favorite style of isometric
3D view.
Perfect game ever. We still have isometric games today.
Yeah.
Like the latest Call of Duty, isometric,
Oh, yeah, of course.
We've never got away from that style, and it's carried on. And some of the greatest gems are isometric.
It's carried through the ages. I mean,
like Mega Man, the greatest of all isometric games.
Oh, this game played about how I feel about those crappy N64 polygonal games. It's like, oh, they tried. They had an idea.
You did your best.
Mega Man and Castlevania, no, they shouldn't have been put like this, but back to Snake Rattle and Roll.
Yeah.
Hey, there's no plot. It's just, your whole objective is just to end the stage.
Come on, there's some real deep lore. So you play as Rattle, who escaped from the Brooklyn Zoo. And, no, I'm joking. Fuck that.
All right. you can make your own story, I suppose.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is it looks like the Genesis version controls, it still controls like ass for the most part, but because of the way the D-pad is, with its all 8 directions and everything,
it works a little better.
It works a little better, it looked like. Because there was one specific level, I believe it was stage 3, where there's a bunch of waterfalls everywhere.
Yes, my favorite
and
level.
you jump into. It looks like you're jumping on the same plane, but you keep jumping over it, and you go off the stage.
That's a little really. Yeah, you know what? That's the problem with isometric games. Though if you don't see a shadow, you have to go by the shadow, and there's nothing else because you can't tell depth in like a 2D game trying to be 3D.
It was quite frustrating in sections. You can play this co-op naturally, and you get to choose between the two snakes, Rattle and Roll. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, it's like Bubble Bobble. They got Bub and Bob. Like you guys.
Exactly. Except Bubble Bobble is good.
See, I'm looking up the Genesis version right now just because I didn't know it existed. I don't think it came out in America, did it? Everything I see just says Mega Drive.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing.
No, I know, but I'm saying like normally they'd call it like Genesis gameplay, and like I'm looking.
Oh, okay,
for, like,
I gotcha.
I'm looking on like price charting, which normally has like only American stuff, but like it looks better on this. Like the animations look way better too.
Well, yeah, I mean, it came out full 3 years later too. They were able to do more with what they wanted. So
like
the whole objective, you being these snakes, is to eat enough of these things called nibbly pibblies, which are these small creatures that you eat with your terribly animated snake tongue.
That doesn't. This game might be a little suggestive.
Has like no reach.
It's almost like you ever play Chameleon Twist?
I have not.
Reference is invalid. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, the point is you eat enough of these little creatures to gain enough weight, for your snake to gain enough weight, get big enough to then weigh in near the end of the stage at this weigh-in station, and you end up ringing a bell. And one good thing the game does is your tail will flash, and I think the music will change when you've gained enough weight so you can ring that bell. So it tells you, even if you're not there, so you don't have to constantly go back and forth and check to make sure you're heavy enough to ring the bell. Because these levels are timed. And because of the shit jumping mechanic, because it's 3D isometric, it becomes a time crunch at times.
The whole game is a time crunch with these controls.
It's, Now, there are 11 stages, so it may seem on the shorter side, but because of the time crunch, you will die in game over. I mean, it will happen.
You'll probably get to stage 4. You're like, no, I'm done. I can't do this no more.
Stage 4 is where I rage quit.
Exactly.
I couldn't handle it. I just kept falling off the stage, or I couldn't gain enough weight in time because, again, that whole tongue mechanic of the game just didn't. I couldn't get it. It was like, just eat the goddamn pibbly.
It would be easier if this game wasn't timed. Like, timed is like I know this game came out earlier, like in console lifespan, I guess, like in general. But like that's just a hangover from the arcade days, and like it's not something we need.
And I actually found if you play this by yourself, it's much easier to gain the weight so you can progress through the game. But with multiplayer, right, with multiplayer, you're sharing, and you're lucky if you complete stage 1 or 2.
That was a giant overlook they did because they didn't like scale the game to 2 players. Like they didn't put. I don't think they put more enemies on screen at all. So you just kind of had to like hope for what you had. But 1 player, it's the same amount of stuff. So you're like, all right, well, I'm good.
Yeah, the game has several continues when you game over, but it hardly helps.
No, I don't think it helped me at all. I was like, oh great.
No, I think it goes back. If it had infinite continues, maybe I would have been motivated enough to continue playing, but it was too frustrating.
It still is.
It had the potential, but I don't see myself going back to this game, honestly.
If I played the Genesis version, which I didn't know existed until I just learned from your photosynthesis, I think I'd like it a little better than the NES version.
Well, you'll be happy to know that both versions on the NES and Genesis run for about $10, so they're not. They're not too expensive. Well, there were a lot of amazing facts I found out about this game because I did research, like why is this? Because it seems to be a pretty big cult classic. Among NES collectors in particular.
Yeah, people love it. I can't say I have the same amount of love.
I do not like this game.
Yeah.
It had all of about 15 minutes worth of gameplay for me.
Literally 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah. So all the major players from Rare were involved in creating this game, and their whole goal was, you could say they tried to troll the game industry. They wanted, their sole purpose in making this game was to make the smallest game possible on an NES cart.
Really?
Like how, yeah, that was their whole goal involved. Because if you've noticed, the guy who made the music, David Wise, the Donkey Kong Country guy, all he did was make a remix version of the Snake, Rattle, and Roll song in an 8-bit form. And it's on every level. Snake, rattle, and roll.
Oh, yeah, I figured that pun was everywhere. I was like, yeah, but it's only like that small loop, and you're like, all right, I get it. Like,
so it was literally just one song the whole game. The whole level's in this 3D isometric form with no background. So it had about as much programming as Qbert.
I wonder what
the snake tongue animations had 1 frame of animation. It's about as small as you can get, and they succeeded.
I wonder what the file size of this game is. And the thing is, it's like, I mean, it's going to diverge a little bit, but like a screenshot of this game probably takes up more file space in the game itself now. Oh, for sure. Which is like, it's so crazy how that works, but like I can only imagine this game being like a kilobyte. I bet the ROM is bigger than the cart. I would be shocked. The ROM file probably has a bigger file size than the cart. You could probably take that to the bank on that. Now, one funny thing in the game was if you end up in water, a remix version of the Jaws theme comes up. Which was awesome, by the way. That was cool. I like that. I did like that, and I was like, I gotta get out. And I had such issue getting out of the water with these isometric controls. Yeah. Like, it is shitty. I think if the snake controlled a bit slower, it would have been more playable. Maybe. Because it wasn't the fact that the 3D, I slowly got used to the isometric view, but if I had to do precision jumping, the snake is just too goddamn fast. He's too fast. I would slip too much off the stage. That's what was happening. Once I finally got, okay, I just need to jump a little bit earlier because it's actually right here. But because the snake controls so fast and he's too quick, you're just like, oh, left, right, oh, I fell off. Great. You gotta live and die by the shadow in isometric games. Ugh. And you know what the thing is? Like, the shadow in this, not really helpful because it's almost non-existent. Like, because there's some, like, black tiles that, like, he jumps so quickly, so like you barely get to see the shadow. But like when you gotta make like a leap of faith, it's literally a leap of faith. Like you're either gonna make it or not. And then that's when I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done with this game. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I can't say I love this game as much as other people do, but you know, I can't see myself playing this game again. No, maybe if a friend comes over and was like, oh, do you remember Snake, Rattle, and Roll? I'm like, yeah, I already have PTSD. I'm good, thanks. Maybe if you make a drinking game out of it. Yeah, every time you die, you do something else. So that was Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Just to go over one more time. Honestly, we picked a different game, a different console for every game. We basically covered everything. Yeah. We covered Goof Troop on the Super Nintendo, Battle Tanks Global Assault on the PlayStation and Nintendo 64, Gunstar Heroes on the Sega Genesis, Metal Slug 2, which came out on the Neo Geo MVS and CD, but we played anthology versions. True. Because no one can afford a Neo Geo CD. Come on, you're not wiping your ass with $100 bills? Golden Axe on the Sega Genesis. It also came out on the Sega Master System, but we don't speak ill of those kind of things. And Snake, Rattle, and Roll on the Nintendo Entertainment System and a later port on the Sega Genesis. So, Kev, what was your favorite game off the list? Shock value, because I'm glad you got a lot of joy out of it, was Battle Tanks. And I'd probably stick with it's that or Gunstar Heroes, but I can actually beat Battle Tanks and not Gunstar Heroes. And I'm not one to only like games off nostalgia, but I really feel a lot of it for Battle Tanks. And I that's just one game I want more people to play. So anyone who listens, please just find a copy and just please.
It really is. I hate throwing around that hidden gem word, but
it's got overused now.
It really is. But I believe in the case of Battle Tanks Global Assault, because it's a game I'd never heard of. It's a game that I never played until now. It was a pleasant surprise. It is for sure something I would definitely consider a hidden gem.
Hell yeah.
And I'm very happy you suggested it. It was great. If I'm to pick a favorite game off the list, I'm going to avoid Gunstar Heroes because that would be too. I feel like that would be too cop out. I do think it's the best game off the list, but for the sake of being different, I'm gonna actually choose Battle Axe, Golden Axe, the original Golden Axe.
I thought you were gonna say Goof Troop.
No,
I know you didn't love it.
I mean, it was just too easy. I like my games to have a bit of challenge.
That's fair.
I enjoy it. Now, I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed playing it with a friend one time through, but I think that's all I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about
I believe
Snake.
Golden Axe I will go back and play. It's that pick up and play kind of game I'm into these days. I could see myself anytime over this next year going back playing it a couple more times, just because I'm not made of time anymore. I got a full-time job. I'm out of college. Those days are done and over with, and Golden Axe kind of fits that bill of pick up and play. So yeah,
it's such a good game. And that's another game. There's a million ways to play. So
now, if I got 3, 4, 5 friends over, I'm definitely going to pop in some Battle Tanks Global Assault on the N64.
If I have one friend over, it's Battle Tanks time. Oh, Kevin, we played this too much. Stop, please. We're playing Battle Tanks again, Dave.
Well, the fact that you can have computer bots as the enemies as well,
that does
in
help.
Your two-player co-op, that really helps make deathmatch mode that much more fun. That's what makes the Twisted Metal games for me.
Hell yeah, this is like Twisted Metal with tanks.
So okay, how about this? By myself, I will play Golden Axe. Friends over, give me Battle Tanks Global Assault on the N64 all day.
Hell yeah.
So how about that?
I can accept that answer.
Okay. Well, that was our main theme of couch co-op games, avoiding the beat 'em up series, and that covers that. It was a good topic. I'm very glad that you chose it, and we'll take another. Yeah, it was great. We'll take another short break here and go into our general topic, which is our feelings and progression of the retro video game prices, as we've more or less hinted throughout the podcast.
I spoiled it.
Nah, it's okay. It's definitely a topic. You're a collector like myself. It's definitely a topic we're fairly passionate about, and it's impacting the industry today big time.
I got some words about you.
Yeah.
Some prices. I got words. We'll see you then.
We'll see you after this next break. And we are back with the Red Leaf Retrocast to go over our main topic, or the general one actually, for how we feel and the trends in retro video game prices and collecting today.
They
what
suck.
do you think? You want to start this off,
They
Mr.
suck.
Kevin?
They suck. I hate them. They keep going up. And as somebody who has worked in a retro store for probably 2.5 years, every time we had to do price changes, I can tell you, it just hurt me a little more inside. And especially being Mario Duck Hunt, game you used to be able to buy for, I think the day I started working there it was $1.95, and the day I left it was $8.95.
Wow, that's quite the markup.
Yeah, over 2.5 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's 900%.
It's the thing is, like, you know, and we've said it before, and we've hinted at it both on this podcast and off. Like, everyone wants to jump and blame the YouTuber because that's the easiest target. They're, you know, your Metal Jesuses, your Pat Contries, whoever it is. But it's no different to me than your friends talking about something they like, and you're like, maybe I want to check that out. You know, they're the easy target, and I think it's a little unfair.
It is an easy target, and you can't just blame mass media for everything.
No.
Whether that be the Twitter or YouTube, for example. I mean, I have stats pulled up here over on just taking North American prices, specifically the United States, on said markups. But you can also look at things at a local level, and from how things are marked up nationally in Canada. Because this is what I'm experiencing right now. Right. Nationally in Canada, let's take a used modern game that's been out for a couple years. It's generally going to be around that $20-$22 price range.
Yeah,
and I'm taking that from ebgames.com.
You're going by like PS4 or like PS3?
PS4.
Okay.
Once the game's been out a couple years, it's generally around that price range. It's almost like a standard.
Yeah, that's a sense.
However, you take EB Games strictly in the Toronto area, and word of mouth just in the community that goes around, like right now, as an example, from the PNG podcast, he talks up Billy the Wizard a lot. Mm-hmm. And he's local to Toronto. There's a lot of us here in contact with him, and that game in particular was $2 before his podcast started.
Seems weird.
And over the last 9 months, one of the shittiest games I've ever played has gone up to about $7-8 just in the Toronto area.
And most people like scoff at that number. They're like, $8. What's $8? I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, it was $2. It was a throwaway piece of plastic for most people. It
was a throwaway shovelware piece of nothing in which it's a broken game, and now it's $8. Yeah. But then when I was going with the stats of, let's take EB Games on a local level, where the game, I believe, is Far Cry 4. That's a good example. For some reason, I've heard word of mouth that a lot of people in the Toronto area, and I travel a lot, so that's the other reason why I've experienced this game. And I travel a lot. I was in Alberta fairly recently. That game is still $20. And that's where I got the game, in Alberta. But on a local scale in Toronto, since a lot of people are playing it right now, that game is $30 in the area.
Which, that's just economics of anything, though, you know? Like,
so you can't just blame a YouTuber. It is just in general and where you live. And then you can take prices, and this is where I can develop my theory of the trend that we might see in terms of retro gaming. And I was briefly talking to you during the break about how I feel where prices might turn out and what I also hope will turn out just based on the data we're seeing now. How in our age group, you and I, Kevin, we, during the mid-2000s, that's when people around our age started to get our first jobs. And we saw certain game trends, whether it be the nostalgia factor of getting the original NES and Super Nintendo games, just for example, all of a sudden those price scales started going up. And you can see that from the site pricecharting.com. You see a slight uptick during that era, and then it kind of levels out to about for the next 4 or 5 years, and that's when the age group's in college. And everyone knows when you're in college, you're generally broke, and you can't afford everything.
Right now, those kids are a little younger than me, and they all grew up with like N64, PS1, maybe sliding into the PS2 era. So, like, those are starting to take the uptick now, you'll notice.
Right. So, and then the other uptick trend is after that 5-year span, so around the 2011, 2012 range, you just see this dramatic increase, almost threefold. Games, 2 to 3-fold. Games were averaging around the $8 range. Now they're around the $24 range.
And it'd be...
And luckily, over the last couple of years, we've seen this trend stabilize.
Which you will, and that is good to know. And we talk about this bubble burst. Everyone talks about like the retro game bubble burst, and I've heard everyone say we're going to hit a bubble and it's going to pop in like the next 2 years. But I've been hearing that since like 2010. The problem is, I mean, you can call me a semi-collector, and we've talked about that,
right?
But all those are like, oh, we're gonna hit this bubble and pop, and then the next words out of somebody's mouth is, I can't wait till the bubble pops so I buy everything cheap. So we're gonna be in the cycle then.
It's funny they were mentioning bubble pop during that year that you mentioned, but all the data that's in front of me from pricecharting.com, another site I go to a lot is gamevalue.com. That's when we saw the most increase. Because, as I've stated, my theory is that's when our age group was exiting college. Everyone started getting their own income. Mm-hmm. They finally had disposable income to spend on all the things they've wanted as a kid. I am guilty of it myself.
Oh, I'm absolutely guilty.
Absolutely, and why
no
not?
Doubt.
But that is a valuable reason, valid reason for that trend. But now, of course, 4 or 5 years later, we're approaching. This age group, I am one of them, is approaching the 30s, and that's generally where people start settling down with their lives, or they have a kid, and they basically, their disposable income is now going somewhere else. Right. Places of more importance, hence why that trend has stabilized the last couple of years. I base that off of nothing, it's just my own personal theory.
And it's a solid theory, and I'd love to believe it. And that'd be great if one day we see the average NES cartridge. I'd even settle for $15, which I know sounds asinine, but I would just like to see things stabilize. You know, and we've both personally talked about this before, where even a common game is getting hoarded and the prices are going up. I think Super Mario Bros. 3 is like a prime example.
Oh, you can go to any Facebook collecting group, just for example, any one of them, and you'll see X person just go, hey, I just went either to a garage sale or I did a trade and I spent $300 for 17 copies of Mario 3 plus a few other shitty games.
And you're
like, well, why do you need that many copies?
There's no need for that. And
you're ruining it for people that could get the game, but now they can't.
Right. When I worked in a game store, I remember, and again, this goes back, we can blame the YouTuber, but there would be kids that come in that are, 10, 12 years old, and they get interested, like old games. They found their mom's Nintendo or something like that. Right. And they're just like, oh, like, Mario's popular. And they'd come into the game store I worked at. Oh, you guys have Mario Brothers Duck Hunt or Mario 3. And we're like, no. And it's like, it's almost kind of embarrassing to run a game store and not have a copy of Mario Brothers Duck Hunt.
Yeah, it's embarrassing to be in a retro game store and not see what should be the easiest games to find, and they're just not available because said people are hoarding them. Mm-hmm. I believe you told me a story where you've seen one guy make literally a coffee table out of Duck Hunt cartridges.
Yeah, Mario Duck Hunt cartridges, all of them. Whole table was. It's ridiculous because, like, one, what are you going to do with that? It's not practical. It doesn't make any sense. And
now, Now, what would make sense is you have a coffee table with, and I have a friend that has done this where he's taken all of his games and he has a coffee table with a glass case and he's taken all of his games and put them in a glass case face up so he can look at all the games like that.
No problem. I have absolutely.
That's a cool little way to do it, but he doesn't have 40 copies of the same game.
No, I would hope not, because the thing is, you're taking it away from somebody who really wants to play it, and there's a collector ego where people want to have things to have it, but they're not really enjoying.
It's kind of a mentality breakdown where they feel like they have to save the game,
and they're not. At the end of the day, it's plastic or it's a disc, and And nothing. The thing is, nothing's forever. That cartridge can break. The disc can break, and I'm a big supporter of digital, which I know is like the collector, like, shame, how dare you, but
how dare you have a digital game? But
yeah, it's like, you don't own it. I'm like, look, if you buy a copy of Little Samson, Taito's not seeing that money. They don't care. They made that game 20 years ago. It means nothing to them. When
Right.
there's a legal way to purchase a game, that's like the real way to support it. Granted, you're supporting your mom and pop retro shops by getting the game, which is fine, but it shows that there's still interest in that game, and somebody is getting paid for that game when you buy it on Virtual Console or something.
You know, it's funny you bring up the supporting the retro shop. And this might come as a controversial statement for a lot of collectors, but let's take the game Earthbound, for example.
That swine.
How that cart was a limited release, which justifies in my eyes, it justifies a higher end price, but of course not $300 worth.
The thing is, everyone calls Earthbound rare, and I will stand by the fact that that's not a rare game. It's a desired game, it's an uncommon game, but a rare game is something where I can go on eBay, and if I type it in, there's always an Earthbound on there. Always.
Naturally, always.
Yeah, there's not always a stadium event.
The fact remains it was a limited release title because it didn't sell well when it was first released.
Oh, yeah.
Conker's Bad Fur Day is another good example of that. It's a game at the end of the lifespan, and it's just the way things worked out, but there's still no reason behind the game being that high when you could easily get, at least in today's world, you can easily go on the Wii or Wii U Virtual Console, I believe it's only Wii U actually, to get the digital version of Earthbound. Mm-hmm. When the Switch comes out, I'm sure it's going to be on that.
Which it'd be great, but there's something about the media of video games where companies don't feel like they have to preserve their history.
At least in the case of Nintendo.
Especially Nintendo. But I mean, you know...
They only want their bigger titles to stay.
Which is wonderful, but, you know, the 3DS... actually, the biggest lie in the world is when Nintendo said, like, only Super Nintendo can be played on the new 3DS XL. I was like, that is bullshit. You're telling me that this thing is not powerful enough to run a Super Nintendo ROM, but it can fully play Ocarina of Time remade? Like, don't fucking lie to me, first off. Like, and if you believe that, it's going to be controversial. You're a moron. Like, yeah. There's no reason Nintendo wants you to buy the thing. Just whatever they got to do.
Well, my going back to my controversial statement, for Earthbound in particular, let's say you go to your local retro video game store and they're selling a reproduction cart of said game. Who in their right mind would rather spend $300 on this piece of plastic that came out in '93 that's selling for $300, or a reproduction cart? It's still a physical copy where you can support your retro video game store.
You can
for this physical game. It's another option to get it. Because I do understand playing a game with the original controller on the original system does give the game more value as opposed to getting it digital on a modern system with a much different controller.
And the thing is,
those are valid reasons.
That's fine.
But to spend so much money just because this particular piece of plastic came out way back then, I don't know if I can totally agree with that.
No, it doesn't. And the thing is, you know, we talked about how Nintendo's the worst at this. And I had a Mother 3 fan translation a couple years ago. And I only want it because, one, I want to play it. And, like, I wanted something to hold, say, yes, I own this. But it's because that's the only way for me to play is either get a repro or, you know, emulate it somehow, which is, you know, do what you want to do. I'm for emulation. But Nintendo won't put it out there.
It's a way to preserve the game.
Right. And there's other ways. So I spent like $5 on the reproduction cards. It's a really shitty thing from China. But if Nintendo ever put out Mother 3 on Virtual Console, while I hate Nintendo's digital store and I will probably never buy anything from them other than this, like, one thing, I would buy it to support it and show, yeah, there's
the day Earthbound was released digitally, I hopped on it.
Yeah, and you should, because that shows, look, there's an interest in the Mother series. We as fans thank you that you care about it. You know?
And that's really the only way a company is able to track the popularity.
Right.
And that's probably why we're seeing the Crash Insanity remake today, is because Sony put the game virtually on their system.
And they know you buy it. They see the sales.
Obviously sold well, and they saw the feedback. Now, if you're buying the physical copy from a dude off eBay...
No reason it should go what it should go for. At all.
at no reason should it go for $40.
Not only that, it's a greatest hits game. And I know, like, it's a Sony first-party game, so, like, they're, they could fudge their greatest hits numbers all they want. But the fact is, it sold well enough where they were like, look, this has some merit to it. There's a lot out there. If Crash is so readily available physically, why is it $30? If it's so readily available where I can put it on my PS3, my PSP, my Vita, why? Why would I spend, as a normal functioning human being, to spend $30 on that disc? It doesn't do me any favors. That disc could not work. It's
just the justification of getting that particular copy.
Right.
And you and I may not totally agree with it. That's fine.
That's fine. Everyone can do their own thing. But there's other options to play. And I said this before. There's any game worth playing almost has some other way to keep playing it today. It's either
there's a very good chance that it does exist.
Right. Whether that means a digital storefront or emulation.
The only game that I can think of off the top of my head that is a bad case of this is Parappa the Rapper. Isn't available virtually. And that baffles me because it's such an icon for what the original PlayStation was.
But
Jammer Lambie, the sequel, is on there. So it's almost like the priorities are backwards. Maybe there's some licensing involved that I'm not aware of.
That could be it, and that's the issue with digital. But the thing with Parappa is you have at least a PSP port, so there's another way to get it. Not only that, it's popular enough where Sony recognized it, and there's a remake of it coming out. So you have options, and they may not come right away. But like, let's take another game like Suikoden 2. That game sold terribly for an understandable reason.
It's got the Earthbound syndrome.
Well, and then Final Fantasy 8 or 9 came out on literally the same day. And nobody knew Suikoden that well, and everyone knew Final Fantasy, so they were like, I'm buying Final Fantasy. So understandably, sold like shit. I get it. But now it's available on PSN. And I'm a PSN super supporter because Sony's digital account system means if I delete it or my PS3 hard drive crashes or something, I can just go re-download it. Maybe I don't have my save, but at least I have it.
Now, that's what's good about Sony's digital store as opposed to Nintendo's. If your hard drive on a Nintendo console goes out, you lost those games with it.
And people are like, you could just call Nintendo and you tell them you bought these games and they'll look it up. Like, I shouldn't have to fucking do that. I should have an account that says I bought this and I'm good.
I hope when the Switch does come out that with this new paid online service, all of a sudden Nintendo will realize, this is just me with hopeful thoughts, they will realize that, hey, maybe we should have a fully integrated store.
I saw
You're linked by your account,
Reggie.
not the console.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Reggie saying they've heard the complaints and they're working on it. I hope that's not just brushing people off kind of thing. But all
they have to do is start it now. Yeah, if they start it now, that will be the start of something good.
I refuse to buy anything from Nintendo digitally, and I have a mini tangent to go on, which is why people don't trust digital. So it kind of relates into this. Is that I have a little 3DS and my new 3DS XL, and one day I was just too tired of carrying around my 3DS XL, so I was like, I want to use my little one again. So obviously we said Nintendo doesn't have the accounts. So I was like, all right, I got to do that transfer system. And then the system straight up told me, no, you're not allowed to go back. Like, don't tell me how to. I bought these handhelds into games, so literally, I'm stuck, and I had to. It was just like, all right, fuck me then. Like, what am I gonna do? So I get why people, and this is a stereotype I'm gonna say, but like a lot of Nintendo fans are the ones I see who are like, no, I don't support digital because you don't own it. And this is a broad paint stroke I'm saying, but there's some companies that do it better. The fact is, like, we could look at another game like Super Metroid. Mm-hmm. That game is $40-ish. I want to say 40 or 50.
It's running for about $60 these days.
Motherfucker, it went up. Anyway, I can't believe that. Point being is that's one of those like Nintendo flagship titles. They may not love Metroid so much anymore, but it's on it's on the 3DS, it's on the Wii U, it's on
Happy
the Wii.
25th anniversary. Here's Federation Force.
Yeah. Anyway, but like it's one of those games. It's so easily available, and if you're one of those people that are like, ew, but I need a physical copy because I don't own the game, buy the Super Famicom version. There's like no Japanese in the game. There's always a way. Pretty much, I'm going to say pretty much, there's always a way to get around the prices. And for the retro prices to go down, the arrogance of collectors has to go down. And just say, I'm not going to pay $60 for Super Metroid. I'm not going to pay $200 for Earthbound, because it's the real game. Like, just, if you want to play it, play it. If you're going to put it on a shelf and let it collect dust, you're the problem. Like, unfortunately,
well, you and I both agree games are meant to be played.
They are.
Period.
They're not baseball cards.
I am a collector, but I'm also one that goes, I just want the game.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how you get it.
I solely prefer playing on the original console with the controller, but I just want the game in the end.
Yeah.
I don't need a complete set. Just you can give me Legend of the Dragoon with a broken case, as long as those discs spin and work. We're all good.
The thing is, nothing in life is forever. And everyone says, like, oh, what if they take... Marvel's Capcom is a good example. Like, it was on the PS3 store for a while, and they took it off. And it was like, see, this is why digital will never last. I'm like, your disc could snap tomorrow. It could scratch. Your system could break. Nothing in life is forever. You can sit and pretend that your PS1 disc is going to live forever, or your cartridges will never rust or rot out or die. And that's a great fantasy to live in.
Oh, yeah, you really have to take care of your stuff. I mentioned before, I have a friend who still has his original 3DO, and it somehow works. Yeah. But that's just because he's taking care of it.
Right, but the thing is,
Meanwhile, I'm on my second PS3 because the original model, the GPU melts. GPU melts every time I play too long.
Right.
So I had to get a new one, but that's faulty hardware.
Right.
That's the risk you run with getting consoles.
The only real thing that you'll ever get to make your game live forever is piracy and emulation, unfortunately, because there's gonna, your game may go off the store, your system may break, as long as I prefer if like Sony or Steam or whoever keeps like, hey, all the games we played on PS3, like, they're on the store, which I don't understand why Sony has to do.
I'm incredibly guilty of emulation, especially for a game. Let's just take Little Samson, because that's a great example of, I don't want to pay $2,000 for, a game.
No, it's ridiculous.
I've personally never seen a repro card of that.
Oh, I used to have one.
I'm going to throw up my Ouya. I'm going to put that ROM in and be like, let's see what the big deal is about this game. If I really like it,
remind me to guide you to a $50 reproduction.
Let's say if the reproduction comes out tomorrow, and I really liked if I really liked playing Super Little Samson,
Super Metroid.
I will search out. Super Metroid. I will search out that repro card of Little Samson.
I'm going to send you a link now, because I want to support this. There's an Etsy dealer I used to buy a lot of repros from. And
okay. Because I've been looking for one particular game, and I know the repro exists, but it's only in Montreal, Canada.
No, this lady's on Etsy, and she gives you a little, like, she sews like yarn, like Bob-Ombs and like Shy Guys. She'll send you in your little package, so that's cute. I'm gonna give you the link right now.
Oh, that's neat.
So I support that because it's not on a storefront, and the thing is, as much as I want it to be on a digital storefront, Nintendo's not going to put it on there at the end of the day. It's not going to be on
that's
PSN.
Incredible.
Yeah, it looks pretty good too. I used to have one.
It looks like a real thing to me.
Yeah, if you actually put it in a Retron 5, it doesn't say like unknown cartridge. It actually says the ROM.
That's another good topic, is to bring up the Hyperkin consoles.
Yeah, they're reproduction consoles. Perfect. I love them.
They're it's just like the Ouya. It's pretty much an emulation device.
Right.
What's good about the Hyperkin is they have ways of hooking up those controllers. Mm-hmm. Sure, some games sound a bit odd when you throw that card in. Not all the games work. It's not guaranteed, but it's a way to maintain those games in there. It's trying to stay true to the original form as much as it can.
The only thing I wish that the Retron 5 would do, and you can do some like backdoor load a ROM on an SD card thing with it. It kind of works. Bucky O'Hare and Mick Kids did not work for me, so I had this thing.
O'Hare.
I wanted to play it. I'm not paying $70 for that game.
Right.
But like, you could do that. I don't understand why a third-party clone system will not allow me to put ROMs in an SD card and load it. There's some you can, but like
it's gotta be something legal.
It probably is, and I get that.
It's gotta be, but that's only conjecture. No evidence involved.
No.
Now, I do want to get into my next theory.
Ooh, game theory.
You ready? You ready for this?
Yeah.
I got more stats with my own theory.
Numbers.
So we're back to numbers.
My favorite.
I mentioned before how the age group that's buying up and running up the prices of these retro games, people have pretty much collected what they've wanted. Maybe their disposable income is heading somewhere else now, hence why we've seen a stabilized number the last few years in game prices. However, we've seen those in the major consoles. Those would be your NES, your Genesis / Mega Drive, your 64, your PS1. Now,
your main consoles have pretty much stayed, yeah.
Those have stabilized. However, the last few years, this is where my theory is those collectors are now the hardcore ones that have stayed. Maybe they're still single, like myself. You've gotten all the major consoles now. Now you're interested in the consoles that didn't do so well during those times, but they still had good games. That would be your TurboGrafx, your 3DO, your Saturn, your Dreamcast. Okay?
Right.
Last few years, we've seen those prices of the games. Those have particularly started rising.
I'll say that
during the 2010 to 2014, those were stable.
They are, but I gotta say a lot of that attributes to like people getting into like your NES and your Super Nintendo, and then they go, huh? Like there's a branch of curiosity because not everyone's collecting TurboGrafx or Saturn, and it's like one guy that wants to branch out and be like, oh, I wonder what's on that. Like,
I'm definitely a good example, but luckily I got quite a few Saturn games before it was rising in price. I was pretty much collecting things equally, just as they came. But over the last few years, all of a sudden I'm like, why is Bonk's Revenge now $40 when I could have gotten it a few years ago at $20? So we've seen, I'm taking these numbers off of, again, pricecharting.com for the older consoles.
Right.
It's very fascinating how you can see in the data why you can put theories to why these trends are going the way they are. So
it's just
again,
I wish somebody at Sony or Nintendo is watching these numbers and go, there's a popularity for Bonk. Let's put Bonk. Well, they put Bonk's Adventure on PSN, but like just to be like, let's make this available. So, like, people want it. Why not just... Because I have a good feeling there's a moral compass in most gamers who are like, well, hey, it's out there.
The good news is, a few years ago, when this uptick started, this is also when Nintendo got the rights to start a virtual console for things like the Neo Geo and the TurboGrafx.
But they're not supporting
honestly,
it anymore.
I went... Excuse me?
They don't do that anymore on Wii U. They put, like... 3 TurboGrafx games on there, and no Genesis. So, there's no nothing.
For those in particular, they actually put them on the Wii Virtual Console because the Wii could actually emulate the older consoles better.
Right, and that's great. But let's go into the preservation thing. When I bought a Wii U, I was like, "Oh, the Virtual Console is gonna come. It's gonna be there soon. Like I'm just waiting for it to launch." Right. The whole like 3 months I had a Wii U, and I was sitting there waiting. I had no idea that I can go in the Wii menu, which is already a pain, go in the Wii shop, and then go get those ROMs. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Nintendo doesn't advertise that I can do this. Like, how was I supposed to know?
I think you're a fool for not even trying. How about that?
I mean, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, oh, it can emulate a Wii. Like, okay, I can play the Wii games, the Wii menu's there. But, like, they didn't make that known. Other side to that is, they have their stupid Wii points card. I can't buy those anymore. So, like, now I got to put my card in, which, convenience, whatever. But still, like, it goes to that preservation thing. Like, yes, it can do that. But, like, once the Wii U's not, like, dead, like, or not, the Wii was dead, I guess I should say. There's not Neo Geo on that store anymore. There's not Genesis games on that store. Like, there's like
they're not adding titles, that's right, for sure. But the titles that they did put on there, they're there now. Now some games, of course, lost their licenses to other companies, and they've had to remove them. That's nothing we can do about it. That's just business.
Well, that's the way the world works. But the thing is, like, in the 5 years the 3DS has been out, there's about 200 virtual console games spanning across Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, Color. Why are there only 200 games? Those files are tiny. That's a very common complaint about
and I'm sure
how
Nintendo runs their network. Right. But again, that just comes down to licensing.
Licensing, fine, but let's talk about first party.
Australia is a great example of their virtual console, whether that's on Nintendo or even PlayStation and Xbox. Australia is a country that really gets hit hard in terms of licensing.
Totally get
just
it.
because of a lot of their laws.
Not a problem. So understand. But why not? Why can't Nintendo take all their first party games and just why isn't every Fire Emblem on 3DS? Why isn't every Metroid?
That is the age-old question, isn't it?
Right. Why can't they put all the games they have their full rights to? They made every Zelda game from the NES to, like, I'm going to even say N64 should be on the Wii U Virtual Console without question. Those files are tiny. There's no reason you can't upload them all and download them all. You have all the rights.
I've asked myself the same questions. Like, Conker's Bad Fur Day is a great game. It's over $100 these days. Why isn't this particular N64 game?
Well, that's because Rareware
on the console. Well, that would be a case of now the rights are somewhere else.
And let's go to that. But like Conker's Bad Fur Day.
But then why isn't that on Xbox?
It is. You can buy that
arcade.
You can buy that.
Sure enough, you can.
You can buy it on Xbox Original for Live and Reloaded. You can buy it on 360 downloadable. You can buy Rare Replay on Xbox One. There's 3 other ways to play Conker's Bad Fur Day.
But what I'm saying is before the rights went somewhere else, why wasn't it there?
I mean, it could have been. They took Donkey Kong Country down for a little bit on the Wii on the Virtual Console because of Rareware things. They worked it out eventually, so I don't know how that gets into it.
It's weird how the licensing goes, but I want to run through one last number theory here, and that's where I believe now we're going to see a trend of we're going to see that same trend we saw in 2005, where now this group has their first jobs, and these are the millennials.
Mm-hmm.
What they see as nostalgia is the GameCube, PS2, Xbox. Historically, those have been dirt cheap games, with the exception of Nintendo. We'll get into that.
That tax, though.
So, for the sake of Xbox and PS2, there's a lot of nostalgia there for the millennials. Now they're getting their own jobs. Now they're getting disposable income. We'll see. We're going to start to see a small uptick, and I've already seen some games guilty of this is Dark Cloud 2 and Rogue Galaxy on the PS2. Those games are running about $60 now for a hard copy.
No reason.
Whether it be word gets around or you can blame the YouTubers. The point is the games are increasing because of said nostalgia, and now they're collecting again.
Well, let's go back to the collector arrogance. I need a physical copy. Why bother? They were just on a flash sale for what, $5 each?
Oh, I hopped on them.
Yeah, there's no reason not to take advantage of that. If you want to play it, there are accessible means to play that game. Yeah, and like we said, not every game is available digitally. Fine, but when there is a means, take advantage of it. Show whoever's getting that money. I still have interest in Rogue Galaxy. Hey guys, they're buying it. We should even if you HD'd it and you want to take the easy route, people will probably still buy it.
Mm-hmm.
You could literally up-res the same game and just go, ta-da! How many times they've done that with Resident Evil? How many remakes of Resident Evil are, and people are still eating it up because they're like,
there is at least 3 that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah,
and those are HD, and those are higher definition remakes.
Yeah, and let's. People aren't like us. They don't keep all their old systems, and I had to get this through my own thickhead, pounded into me by my friend. Not everyone keeps their PS3. So when I was like, why is God of War 3 getting remastered? People are like, because not everyone, people sell their PS3. And a lot of people are coming from Xbox 360 to PS4 this gen. They're like, why not do it? And I'm like, okay. But the fact is, it got remade. It's accessible. People bought it.
Right.
And I don't understand why there aren't PS1 classics, PS1 classics on the PS4 store. That's one of those fuck ups that like Sony or whoever get in charge of it. Like, why not do that? Make it accessible for people to play.
Yeah, the reason why the original PlayStation is not on the PS4 store is I think there's still life in the PS3. When that life finally expires, that's when they'll finally move them over.
I would love to. I mean, I'm optimistic and I hope so. But if the Sony doesn't do that, that's gonna be bad.
It just seems like it's taken a while, and maybe they're going to be too late to the game.
I mean, you could be. Yeah, I see what you did there. I mean, granted, they're still. I'm happy they still support the PS3. Totally cool with it. I love mine. It's kind of weird. That's the only way I can get games to my PSP now is downloading it to my PS3 and then transferring it. But
yeah, that is the only way I can do it as well.
A little weird. But
Just one last remark here.
Oh, go nuts.
Is going back to the PS2 and the disposable income. I think a year or two from now, when those kids get their own jobs, the nostalgia's there. We saw a slight uptick when the millennials got to a certain age. Now they're in college.
Mm-hmm.
Prices stabilized. In a couple of years, they're going to be coming out of college having their own disposable income. We're going to see the PS2 and Xbox games go up drastically in price, just like when we saw the Super Nintendo, for example, go up drastically. We're going to see them double easily.
I don't know if double would be it, because the thing about PS2 and Xbox is that they're printed on DVDs, and DVDs when they were made, they printed out even like the hard to find games. They were made in pretty large quantities, and there's more of them out there. And like you can go to a Goodwill.
We're not going to see nearly the same price increase as say the Super Nintendo games. I don't think we're going to see them in the $100 range for a lot of games. We're definitely going to see games go from, let's say a game's going for $10 now. Mm-hmm. I think we're definitely going to see them go to $20, $30 at least.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a game by game basis. I don't think we're gonna. I think
that average price is going to go up in this very similar fashion as the Super Nintendo.
I think 25 is where you're going to cap out at on an average. You got your rule.
Agreeing with me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I'm saying, like, I don't think we're going to see. You got your rule of roses and your weird stuff, but like, I think $25 is around. That is where I'd like to see everything level. I can justify $25 on a game.
We're referring to US dollar.
Yeah. US dollar. Convert that to your yens and euros and whatever your monopoly money.
Yeah, and then be sad. Well, to be fair, the United States dollar does look more monopoly than compared to other currency in the world, but that's for another day.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Now getting into the GameCube, where it suffers from what we dub Nintendo effect. You don't really see Nintendo prices depreciate in a game no matter what. That's why when you go take your EB or GameStop, you got your PlayStation wall, then you got your Xbox wall, and in a little corner there, you got your little Nintendo, whether it be Wii U and 3DS, where it's just a single shelf. Because Nintendo collectors generally, or gamers, don't generally give their games back.
I think that goes to a nostalgic thing, though. People hear Nintendo... And it's kind of to a point where, like, anytime Nintendo does something, people jump on it for the sole reason of, I'm never going to find it. They've kind of created their own little vacuum.
I think that would be the case with the Switch pre-order.
The Switch pre-order. Let's talk about all right, here's one that we can talk about prices that has to do with Nintendo. We can go to the NES Classic, and that thing is $60. Fine, fair price. And the people that complain that there aren't enough, like whatever, those are the people that are like collectors. I've never seen a normal person who doesn't really care about video games complain about NES Classics being out of stock. They're always the people who go, I don't need this thing, I have all the games. Like, this isn't a necessity for me, but I have one. Okay, well, then why do you need it? And it's something about Nintendo where people are just like, I gotta have it to have it. Like, this is a cult level like behavior. Like, I've never seen somebody like a PC gamer or Xbox or Sony who microphone fell, where they have to have, well, I'm gonna buy Killzone Shadowfall because I have to have it. Like, people wait, and like they wait for price drops, and they do the smart consumer thing. We can talk about Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. When that came out, what does that run on GameCube now? Like $40 ish? About.
Couldn't tell you.
I think it's like 40-50. When people expected when Wind Waker HD to come out, they expected that the GameCube one would drop, but it like had a price increase. Why? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, because that's Nintendo. All of a sudden, it's like people want the original. All of a sudden, yeah. Now that's actually good that you brought that up, because in the case of a game like Final Fantasy VII, when I was growing up, I had to borrow it from friends. Everybody had the game except me, of course, because I was a broke 8-year-old or whatever I was when that game came out.
Nerd. And
when I got a job, I was like, I want to get this game. However, nobody gave that game back, so the game was selling for about $120, and this was in the early 2000s already on eBay. I was
ridiculous.
Like, well, I guess I'm not going to be getting that game anytime soon. But that was also a case of eBay sellers and people just selling it at that high price because they knew there was no other way for anyone to get the game. Then all of a sudden, one year during the PS3 era, it came out on the virtual console for it. And I instantly saw the physical copy of that game immediately go down to around $30, and that's when I finally got that hard copy. I also got the digital one because I wanted to play it on my PSP.
And the thing is, that game.
And now, just cutting you off one more time here.
Sorry.
And now, because of this retro game boom that we've seen over the last few years, now the game's hard to get again. And we've seen it gone up to around that $50, $60 range. It's not the $120 that it used to be, thank God, because of the digital version, and a lot of people have it that way. But we have seen it go up in price. Compared to Nintendo, though, Nintendo just... The only way... You can't get Wind Waker virtually. The only way to get it is that hard copy, and Nintendo is very good at saying, no, this is the only way you're going to be able to get that. Why they do that? I don't know, because they're not seeing the money from eBay sellers selling their overpriced copies.
No, they're not.
It's just the Nintendo effect.
They have Wind Waker HD on their Wii U store. I mean, that's just like, most modern games you could buy digitally, so that works out.
But it's not the GameCube version.
No, it's not. And it's arguably a better version. But here's the thing.
Oh, I think it's a much better version.
Yeah, it's great. The Triforce part, fuck that part. The thing is, I think this might come where people are like, oh, I don't like digital, especially Nintendo fans, because the Wii U storage is shit. So you can't fit Wind Waker on Wii U's if you have like a couple games downloaded.
I have a hard drive hooked up to my Wii U.
Oh, I do too.
There was no other way around it. I wanted to play Fatal of Frame Made in Blackwater because the physical copy only came out in Europe. It didn't come to the West. And I was like, I want this game because it utilizes the gamepad. I'm scared, and I get to be an anime schoolgirl scared.
I just like being an anime schoolgirl. But the thing is,
being the anime schoolgirl and put her in different outfits. Come at me, brah.
It's fun.
I had to literally wipe a hard drive to be dedicated to the Wii U because of the Wii U hard space. And that's what makes me fairly nervous about this pretty much confirmed GameCube Virtual Console on the Switch. How is that going to work with such small space? Well, they fixed that with you needing an SD slot. And I think that was in reaction to people getting hard drives and hooking them up to the Wii U.
It's nice and all, but the thing is, playing off an SD card is slow. They don't have fast load time, so it may end up working out. But
I think it'll be about the same running off an SD card compared to how the GameCube ran.
I hope so, and I have all hopes for it. I hope they don't do the thing they've done with the Wii and the Wii U, and when Smash Melee and hopefully Fire Emblem Path of Radiance come out on the GameCube Virtual Console for the Switch, I will be hopping on that like hot lava. I hope so, but if we watch Nintendo's pattern, their Virtual Console drip, like we talked about the 3DS, is abysmal. You know, your virtual console should not launch
years.
with 5 NES games at $5 a piece. And, you know, granted, we always say, like, oh, I'd rather pay $5 for Metroid than the 20 it goes for. Yeah, it's better, but these are 30-year-old games. Like, they add up over time. There's no, like, they're just ROMs at the end of the day. They're legal ROMs, but, you know, maybe $2 or $3. You know, and I kind of, you know, they know what Earthbound goes for, because Super Nintendo ROMs go for $8 and they put that one at 10 just to like shove it to you kind of thing. And people bought it. I bought it. I mean, it's just a little, it just has to be done better. And people want this, well, companies want this digital future, but like you have to preserve the history of video games, because we say they're not baseball cards. They're meant to be played. You know, you have to treat games like they want to be played. And if it's out there, I got to get better at this too, where if something's on a digital store, I end up buying it just because I'm like, ooh, I'm going to play Chrono Cross one day. It's probably not going anywhere. I probably shouldn't buy it unless I'm ready to play it.
Luckily, that's a game that stayed, for some reason, that's one of the few games that stayed in its same price range all these years. Yeah. Same thing with Legend of Dragoon.
Best RPG ever. You need to play. You need to get started.
Has a good series going on of Legend of the Dragoon, by the way.
Once I get my friend to stop mumbling.
Well, my bold statement to finish this off is we're going to see the PS2 and Xbox games go up at least double in price over the next year or so.
I hope not, but
for the average title.
Yes, average.
And I believe this goes along with the same statement that because the hardcore collectors are collecting for other systems and the millennials are going to be focusing on their own nostalgia consoles, I think we're going to see a slight decrease in the NES, SNES, Genesis titles.
I don't think
we'll see a lot. We'll definitely see it noticeable enough for trends. So maybe that $60 Super Metroid cart will go down to $40, $45.
In my dreams,
that's still a 20% decrease.
You know, and we glazed over it, but when you get to the PS2 Xbox era, you know, the GameCube version of a game will always be more expensive. So when it comes to alternative means, you know, if you open your horizons a little bit, like True Crime Streets of LA or something that's on GameCube is $10 game for no reason, but on PS2 Xbox it's $5. So if people open up their horizons a little bit and find the cheapest route to play a game, you can keep prices in check. You don't have to get the GameCube version because I love Nintendo.
Yeah, you showed me a very good example of that is the Mega Man Anniversary Collection.
The worst versions are no doubt the GameCube. The buttons are swapped. I think there's actually, when we talked about it a little bit, but I did some research on the GameCube one, it like runs worse too. But because it's not very good,
but what's the difference in price? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Mega Man Collection or X?
Either or. I think X is the one that's just baffling.
Yeah, that one, again, backwards buttons, and it's $60 on the GameCube. And on PS2
it's what,
$10 brand new I bought on Amazon.
Yeah, it's brand new. It's just the Nintendo effect. At its
people,
finest. That's a great example of it. I mean, we even see a slight example with one of the games we covered, and that's Battle Tanks Global Assault. The N64 version is $15, while the PlayStation version is $5.
And when we talk about Battle Tanks,
also two different animals, but we did talk about it. So.
Yeah, that one has. There's so few times a game is so much better on one system than the other, and the N64 PS1 version that has, you know, we talked about the trade-offs to that, but 9 times out of 10, the games are pretty identical. You know, people say like, oh, I gotta play Mega Man on Nintendo because it feels right. Okay, well, if we're talking about Mega Man X, you got 3 of them were on a Nintendo system. The other half of that collection, fucking PlayStation. You know, it's cheaper. Like, the moral of the story of this whole thing is find your alternative routes and support them, because otherwise game prices will go up. If that means you have to emulate a game once or twice, I know it's not everyone's favorite, but do it. Don't pay the $1,000 or $2,000 that little Samson goes for. You don't need to do it. There's another way. You don't have to pay $40 for Crash Bandicoot.
Let me ask you this.
Asking.
Did you have demo discs growing up at all? or go to, say, the Blockbuster or the Hollywood Video, the used video game, the used rental store, and rent games so you can try them out before buying them or having your parents buy them.
I had one, and it's I think the one everyone had where it had like Spyro, Medieval, and like weird stuff for PlayStation 1, and I never knew where it came from either.
Okay, so where I was going with this is, growing up, I had a subscription to PlayStation Underground, and every monthly issue came with a demo disc called the Jam Pack.
I remember those.
And that was my prime way of demoing PlayStation games, while maybe on the weekend I would end up going to it was Hollywood Video when that started, and they had a chain next to it called Game Crazy, and they would let me demo NES titles. So if I wanted because during the mid-90s, NES titles were then dirt cheap. Which is why I have a lot of NES titles to the day.
Which is fun.
So demoing a title has always been a part of me as a gamer, and that's something I miss. A good example in today's world is, now what you have is like your free weekend trial of taking the game Nihon, Japanese version of Dark Souls, essentially, with Onimusha elements. For one weekend only, you could play Mission 1 as a demo, and then you can't play it anymore after this weekend. Well, why are you doing that? Because only the most hardcore people that want the game are gonna be aware that that's even gonna happen. Why not just keep the demo on there? So when people are scouring the PlayStation Store, it's like, oh, what's this game? There's a free demo. I think I'll download it and try it out. And if I like it, I can either buy it virtually or I could go to the store and get it.
Yeah, and there's many.
This is why I have this is why I have an Ouya to this day, and I emulate the piss out of so many games. And if I really like it, I'm gonna either buy it virtually, or I'm gonna find the physical copy. If I don't like the game, I'm not gonna get it, and I'm not gonna waste my money just because it's a game.
No, the people always say they miss demo discs, but like there's demos all day on PSN and Xbox Live. Like, take advantage of them, try your games out. You know, people always say like, "Oh, I miss demo discs." I'm like, "Well, that's great, but they make no sense today." Like, there's a demo for every.
But there's no reason to not have some sort of demo for the title on your digital network store.
No. Yeah, there should be, and you know, it's all about making stuff more accessible.
Yeah, all we have today to go by is now the Twitter feed and the biased gaming site reviews for what they think the game is. But you yourself aren't playing it. For all you know, you could fall in love with No Man's Sky, but because the reviews came out and word of mouth says the game's shit, well, it could easily be your game. You haven't played it yet.
No, and we talk about, you know, our channels, and we have stuff like that, and a lot of people do the pickups and the retro reviews and all that, right. But the thing that you and I do when we do a Let's Play, you never get somebody's real blind opinion on something as they're playing it until you at least see them playing it, and then the real emotions come out. You know, a lot of people will review a Zelda and they go, well, Zelda, I have to like it. Like, you know, maybe you don't like Zelda. That's cool. You can not like Zelda. You can
have an opinion on things. It's fine.
Right. But when people write a review, I feel like they script it out and they go, you know, their mind goes, oh, but people love Zelda so much, so they try to justify it. But when you see someone stream something or like Let's Play something, you really get their emotion. You know,
it's funny you mentioned that, because on one of my for my collection videos, I also have basic thoughts and a demo over the beginning of the game. And I mentioned that Song of the Deep is actually a pretty fun game. It's simplistic, but it's fun. And that got terrible reviews. Not a lot of people liked it, but I myself quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And people have a problem with that. I don't care. It's my opinion of the game. This is what it is.
People forget that opinions aren't facts, especially on the internet, so...
Well, as we all know now, facts don't really matter. It's the alternative facts. And the alternative fact is, I liked Song of the Deep. You don't have to like it, but I did. You
can totally do that. And that's why I think even though everyone's doing a Let's Play, and there's no doubt that like it's a saturated market, but because of that, the way I see it is that
it's a saturated market for certain games, that's for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Everyone does Call of Duty, and basically, but the thing is, you get a lot of people's opinions on a game because so many people are doing it, and you get their raw opinions. So,
yeah. Well, I think that about settles this debate over retro video game prices, and we even got a little off topic at the end there, but it kind of ran into it.
It ran into it because you can really see if the prices are justified and what people are playing. Ha! Caught it back.
Ha!
I brought it back. I fixed it for you. Don't worry.
Well, any parting words you want to say, or
you can, if you want to find me on the interwebs, it's at BowlingJD on Twitter. It's Muschenspiel on the YouTubes. It's Muschenspiel on VidMe. I'm there. Trust me.
Oh well, I had no idea. This is news to me.
I have taken over all of your social media accounts.
All right. Well, if you want to find Console Kev or Kevin here on YouTube and VidMe, that would be at Console Kev, and on Twitter.
Hey.
This was his theme of Couch Co-op. And if you want to go find Josh, the poor guy, just unfortunate to miss this fun episode. I hope he regrets it.
He's in a shallow grave. I'm here for a reason.
Hopefully he'll be back for the next one. You can find him at the channel he's a part of, Power Chord Gaming. Same Twitter name, Power Chord.
Yep.
And I believe he's setting up a VidMe channel.
He should.
Maybe.
I'm all about the VidMe hype train, man.
So this has been the Red Leaf Retrocast Couch Co-op episode. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Kevin. I hope to have you back on some more episodes. This was a lot of fun.
I would love to be back. It's a good time.
All right. Thank you and good luck.
See you later.
Later.